Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Underlords Pro Season 4 Grand Finals. I'm your host, TinMan354, here joined by the picture of Blue Sapphire, as he does not have a
Yes.
webcam at the moment, but he is still here, so say hi to everybody.
I Hey everyone, I am here. Unfortunately, no webcam this time. Sorry. No, I'm still as here as ever. I'm hyped. Oh my god, patch. Oh, patch is so massive.
Yes, this patch, there's a
Oh,
lot to talk about, and I'm sure, whatever we talk about and predict, the players are going to do something completely different because the meta is totally up in the air, and so many things have been adjusted. So first, the big one, the big Underlord, Zhul. I think that's how you pronounce it. At least that's how
yeah,
he pronounces it in his voice
absolutely.
line. So what is your first thoughts on our big tanky walrus buddy?
Well, he's certainly the big walrus in the room, right? We have to talk
Absolutely.
about this, especially since not only is his addition quite a big impact on how um, a lot of the underlords will work out, and also the fact that there's more options. It's been changed, but regardless, just singularly on Jewel, right? It's a lot of melee-based units. I kept talking about this, but a lot of melee-based units always have this issue of trying to get to the front line. But the thing with Jewel is that he's not actually supposed to be your main tank. He's actually supposed to be more of a secondary tank, which
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
perfect sense because if your Underlord was your main tank, then that would sort of I feel as though that would be really problematic in terms of how trying to balance the supports with Jewel, because Jewel again is a melee. If he was a melee tank, your primary, in fact, then we would have this issue where you just pick Jewel and you just put hunters behind him or warlocks behind him, and then suddenly your Underlord becomes the star of the show, which is kind of what I thought Hogman would be. But all of the Underlords, regardless, are supposed to be this support. They're just supposed to buff your team.
Right,
So if
right.
your team is already good, they just become better. And I think that is what Jewel really stands out in, is that he's a secondary tank. If you already have a very solid front line, he buffs them up. In fact, the best combo I've seen so far with Jewel is Warlocks with him,
Yeah, I
along
think
with
I think
perhaps some DPS.
Warlocks have been particularly strong in this patch, and just for the healing on Jul and the rest of your front lines, he does really well with a lot of different combinations. But you make a good point. He can't be the main tank, and I know a lot of people probably thought he was going to be like, oh, you just throw him up front and
Yeah.
he's your one man tank. But really, he actually
No.
has pretty low
Yeah.
HP. He gets some bonus armor, but he can get blown up real quick if he doesn't get that initial cast off of Shake It Off, and he definitely needs some support as well. But when he does work out extremely well, being able to buff up your entire team, provide a good part of the front line. But that's just one of the Underlords, and of course with an Essex and Hobgen also, I call them reworked, I guess. All of the Underlords got reworked,
Yeah.
and I know your boy Hobgen, you are not a huge fan of what has happened to
I'm
him.
not a huge fan of the changes. I'm not saying he's like dead. I think he's still playable, right? But his position in the meta feels very awkward because Happy Hour, the barrels are quite, I would say, better iterations of what you can actually benefit from Hobgin. Of course, the difference there is that Jewel does not deal as much damage as Hobgin does, which is always the point, right? If
Hmm.
Hobgin wants to be relevant,
Right.
he has to deal damage. But the thing with that is that with the rising of sustain builds going around in the meta, it's kind of hard to really justify sticking to a Hobgin, especially if your build is revolving around sustain. A lot of
Hmm.
builds, such as Warlocks, want a heal type of Underlord, and in fact, Jewel and Anisix provide that, and Anisix provides a more consistent heal, rather. Jewel provides more of a effective HP increase, rather than a just a flat heal. And meanwhile, Hobgin just provides more damage, and that
Yeah.
is sort of the thing. That's sort of the underlying problem there, is that if sustain is meta, then you I kind of have hard times trying to justify um picking Hobgin over
Mm-hmm.
perhaps an E6 or Jewel. When if I like for instance if I play Warlocks, I wouldn't pick Hobgin, although I do anyway because I only play Hobgin.
You only play Hobgin,
The
yes.
yeah
And
yeah
I think one thing that may be biasing your opinion, obviously since you only have played Hobgin for the first, I don't know if 24 hours or something like that, for the first day or so of the patch, the high damage dealing Hobgin was actually bugged and was not doing the appropriate amount of damage. He was
oh
doing
yes yes
far inferior damage, and so that I know because I picked him in mages once. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play 6 mages. I'm gonna pick high damage Hobgin. It's gonna be great.
yeah
And then he explosivoed like a single unit, like a bounty hunter jumped on him. He explosivoed, and I'm like, this bounty hunter's dead, and he didn't take any damage. And I'm like,
yep. So
oh,
I didn't know about that bug. In fact, I talked to so few people about that. Yeah. So the bug is that Explosivo did not deal damage mid-air when Hobkin died, or just when if Explosivo was mid-air and he changed targets, which was really weird. I tested this in freestyle, so that was
mhm.
yeah, that was one of the bugs. I actually caught that on my third game with high damage Hobgin, because yeah, some units that were just alive were very weird, like a 5 HP Nyx assassin or something. It's quite unusual. So I
Yeah.
did catch that, and that was just really rough. But like I don't think that I mean that did like affect my opinion because that sucks. But like
Yeah, hopefully we'll see him. So
yeah
I was actually of the opinion that the high damage Hobgin is actually the worst version compared to the support Hobgin, where the Let's Go Crazy is very powerful in builds that you say he's not so good in sustain builds, but whenever he goes into builds like Warlocks or Druids or like kind of the tanky builds that'll keep everybody up for a little bit, then Let's Go Crazy like if you already have your defensive synergy, Let's Go Crazy is like your offensive synergy. It's like everything in one,
right
and can like win you the game from there. So that's what I found to be the most successful personally, and I'm very curious to see what our players here, some of the best in the game, will be figuring out. Maybe they are favoring an Essex, maybe Hobbian, maybe Jol. Who knows what direction they're going to be going here.
yeah. Well, speaking of other Underlords, right? We've talked about Jewel and
Mm-hmm.
E6, Hobgin a little bit. So let's talk about an E6. I did want to highlight something about that, and that's an E6. In fact, actually got buffed to basically, in fact, got buffed this patch as well. Her support healing type is actually was buffed recently. Well, so I believe the heal can overstack because of how the cooldown works, or rather, the cooldown is I believe like a 2 second. There's a 2 second gap between every.
It's not that sounds about right. A very small gap, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, an E6 in terms of her healing, she's doing what she does all the time. But the big question mark, and I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of players will have the same incentive, is the high damage. Right. I genuinely thought when I saw support healing, she would have enthrall. That way, you would have this.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would then players would understand. Oh right, so I want my stun, but then I don't have the heal, or do I want my heal, but then I have arguably a weaker ultimate. But then when they put their golem on the healing and then enthrall on the high damage, that raised a lot of questions for me and a few players as well. Is that well then I only play heal an E6, right? Because the high damage an E6
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like the way to go with an E6. I don't think it's ever been the way to go with an E6 personally. Um, like
Yeah, I agree with that. Where
like,
the healing support in Essex seems to be like she just has the best of both abilities. All right, so we are going to get into game here. Unfortunately, one of our players was not able to make it, so we'll be playing a 7-person game, which means everybody gets to root for the Protopass bot, which is going to be Ricardo
yeah, exactly.
bot this game.
oh my god, perfect. Yes, Ricardo, do it, my man.
Everyone loves the Ricardo bot. And
Yeah,
so one thing I have realized is that I'm using our old overlay, which with the change to the Underlords, looks a little bit awkward down here. So
Yeah.
don't mind that. That'll get it all fixed on round 10 when everyone picks up their Underlords. So In any case, let's take a look at the scoreboard to see everyone, because we are getting right into the action right away. Everyone is going to have, well, almost everybody had 3 units right off the bat. Some people did not actually pick up any units. I don't know if that was an oversight or they're trying to intentionally lose, but Spieler TG and Pit to Play, neither of which picked up units. They both got paired against each other, and they forced the draw. I bet they were both maybe intentionally trying to lose streak, or we're just AFK at the first couple seconds here.
Well, either or, it's a tactical play. But yeah, like I think that's fine. I mean, first round damage isn't that a lot, and the free reroll immediately, especially with the increased amount of gold you get early, sounds so good. Actually, like genuinely, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
So getting a draw kind of sucks.
It definitely sucks. Like, whatever they were trying to do, the draw was definitely not it. But I have seen in some of my like ranked games with some of the very top players, like I played against some top 10 Lord players, and they would intentionally play like just 1 or 2 units on the first round to get that loss, and then use the reroll. I kind of am debating whether or not it's worthwhile, because on one hand, yes, you have a lot of gold, but on the other hand, you only get 4 gold. So it's not like you're going to be able to buy everything in both shops. Like, you really don't have that much gold initially.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough, right? Spieler is just buying without... they're definitely doing this intentionally. Spieler has had the option to place. In fact, he's been shopping the entire time. He has decided not to do that.
I see.
Same with Pit to Play. So this is an intentional strategy. Again, they'd rather take, like, at most 10 damage for, in exchange, they get a better board, right? They understand what they can find. Again, the board is technically still extra bench space, so...
yeah, if you want to think about it that way. Certainly can. So yeah, we do see 2 players here going for... Actually, 3 players, really, with Ceremonials getting in on the action of what is used to be called an open fort strategy, where you just run no units initially, get on that early losing streak, and you just intentionally try to bank up your interest. We see both Spieler TG and Pit to Play both have 10 gold already to grab interest as soon as turn 3, which is ridiculously fast. And you know who else has 10 gold? Ricardo Bot, the fan favorite.
Ricardo Bot.
And we see the exciting matchup, Ceremonials versus Pit to Play here. That's not a bug. They're both going open fort, and that is certainly a problem. So let's hop on over to some real action with Angel here, who also doesn't have any real action.
Spieler is. So, yeah. So, open fort rounds. I mean, this is basically like watching neutral rounds this early game, right? It's just the fact that...
Kind of.
Yeah, because half the players are open forting. It's understandable. Like, it's not like it's a bad... They don't mind taking the extra damage to mention. Speaking of forgetting to mention something... Guys, where did jail go? I'm sure it was here somewhere.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the jail now, did we? No.
Yeah, where's the jail, guys? It's just what a weird world.
Right? Yeah, we don't need to start our stream or start our cast here talking about what is in jail, what's not, and what's viable. We just have to, we just have to get right into the action, and the meta is going to be what it's going to be. If it's not going to change. Probably not on a daily basis, maybe on a weekly basis with some balance changes, but on a day-to-day basis, the meta is going to be a little bit more constant, and I think that is good for players who want to kind of like feel like they can learn the meta. I know some players had like complained that, especially like some of the more casual players who only play a couple games per day here and there, as opposed to players who play it a lot more, invest a lot more time in it. They would sometimes feel that, oh, I played this game and I learned what I did wrong because I should have done this strategy instead of that strategy. But then tomorrow, that everything you learned is out the window because that whole strategy or that certain situation is just gone. And that can be a little bit demoralizing to some people, I think, if you feel like you're not actually learning or progressing. And there's a bunch of other things I can talk about with jail, but I know that's one thing that I've heard personally from some players. Yeah.
Well, obviously the casual player base for Dota Underlords is much greater than in Dota because they're entirely 2 different games. And I think the jail system...
Is there a casual Dota player? I've never heard of a casual Dota player. I don't think they exist.
I mean, they exist. They're like 30 years old or something. But regardless, right? The thing is that the jail, I feel like, was legitimately a sort of idea for it was a solid idea for normal matchmaking. And when Knockout was released without a jail, I was like, right, that's the casual game mode for the casual gamer. But when they removed the jail, I was like, okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Yeah, like it was in fact restricting. So
Yeah,
looking forward to
there's
seeing what they replaced. Yeah.
yeah, and some other things. I know some people loved it. I know I loved the idea of the jail initially, but the actual execution and seeing it like play out, I was okay with the decision to go to like a regular rotation of units where they're gonna, intentionally take units out and then, probably put them back in at some point in the future. I think I'm okay with that. It might lead to the meta getting a little bit. I don't want to say more stale, but a little bit more stable over the course of time. As long as they continue to put out like weekly updates, I think it should be. I think it should be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ceremonials and Steeler have finally placed some units on the board. Ceremonials says no, never mind. Well, obviously still using
Neither
the
is
bench.
yeah, Pit to play as well. Opting to continue losing streaks here. This is an interesting strategy that I know we have not seen recently. So because
Yeah,
there's been some I don't know if there's been changes, but like for a while, just open fort strategies have been heavily discouraged. But now that you basically start the game playing against people, you never have a creep round. It's very interesting to see this many people going for this. I personally have not seen this at all in any of my like ranked games, and I've been playing up in the top 1 or 200 Lord players. So this is very interesting for me to see personally, and I'm very
yeah,
curious how these players transition to the late game.
yeah. Without a neutral round, there is no room, right? You have no room.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the issue with that is that I find this myself is that I feel as though I need one more round, but then I realize I don't have a safe haven anymore. I have to survive. So what they've done instead is, all right, I'm gonna lose these few rounds. I don't feel like my composition's gonna win anyway, so I'm gonna spend my money, get some
Mm-hmm.
losses, get the free rerolls, get it so it's good enough to stay in this fight, and then basically take their team and then start rolling. Well, not rolling, at least start winning because that's the whole point. As we can see, Pit to Play and Ceremonials finally put units down. If you look at Ceremonials' board, he has 3 tier 2 2-star units already, and that is because he's decided to again open fort, save all that money to re-roll, and perhaps find a team. And unfortunately for him, it's not looking very hot. It's just Axe versus the World and a Weaver, and unfortunately, Weaver's one of those units you can't really catch by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
especially when there's another unit there. So, fortunately, Ceremonials, his Gambit not paying off. Into Play's Gambit, funnily enough, is paying off because they match each other, and someone has to lose.
Well, honestly, I think that's probably ideal for ceremonials here is to start narrowly losing. Just losing by a little bit of life here continues your loss streak, keeps on getting you the reroll, but you don't take nearly as much damage. So I'm not that concerned from ceremonials. I mean, you still have 77 life. That's pretty healthy still at this point in the game. So we'll check back in on them and
Yeah.
see how they're doing. On the meantime, let's go up to the top of the tables at Shame or Dot Shame, who has
no contract.
the current win streak, and of course there's all kinds of new items that we haven't even touched on yet. But a big time
Yeah.
contract here has been moved to tier 1. It no longer grants bonus health, so it's pretty much strictly for bloodbound compositions. But it's very strong at that, and Shame is doing quite well with it here with the Ogre Magi and the Brutes, along with Axe, and of course Insects have been adjusted to now being a 2/4 alliance. And I think we cast a cursed Dot Shame here, who's going to take their a loss here
First
as
loss.
right before completing a win streak, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Chrysalis on the Tinker, again, unfortunately, has no better unit to put it on. I mean, you put it on the Ogre Magi, maybe. Or the Nyx Assassin. Can Nyx Assassin crit on the
Sure.
Chrysalis when Vendetta? Then perhaps that is an idea to go with. LGC. I never get LGC Hobgood. Like, life is hard.
Yes.
Everybody's getting LGC. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I
I would
it's
okay. Listen, I would
Mhm.
love to rate this more, rate LGC Hobgen more, but I literally never picked it up myself, or rather three. Oh, I found it 3 times out of the 18 games I've played. So it is painful. But yeah, so we'll definitely see how it works because everybody apparently got it. So we will definitely see. We have an A6 players here as well. Someone actually went enthrall with their hunters and a barrels of fun. Um, on the board as well with the jewel. So a good Hobgood ratio again because LGC, as you mentioned, again I have no experience with this, but as you sort of rated, it is quite a effective buff. And also another thing is that another effective strategy I see that is actually starting to grow some traction is that Legion Commander build. I know you love Legion
Oh, I love
Commander.
Legion
I
Commander.
know you love Legion Commander,
Love
and
Legion Commander.
I'm not gonna lie. I've played five Legion Commander builds 5 times, and I've won all of them, like first place. And now I'm almost Lieutenant
She's
4.
she is
Yeah.
so very good now. So in the patch here with Jill, she got reduced down to 2 cost as opposed to 3, and she was not
Yes.
like
Oh.
nerfed by default. The only change to her really came from the fact that everybody's health total went down by 25%. And she benefits, or she gets nerfed by that a little bit because she scales her maximum health. So if she just naturally has lower starting health, she's going to scale a little bit worse. But even so, she's still very strong now that she can get online very early and start racking up dual kills like as soon as turn 1, really, if you get her lucky and are able to get
Yeah.
some kills. So very strong option now, and we'll see a lot of Legion Commander builds. Normally I see 1 or 2 per game in the higher ranked games.
Also, I suggest everyone to watch out for the unusual pocket strat. Well, not unusual. It's quite an action. It's a legitimate pocket strat. The spirit pocket strat.
Mm-hmm.
People have not played that a lot, and that's because it's actually quite hard to manipulate. It is in fact not a. It is in fact not easy to run spirits. It is you have to balance the fact that you Delta Slam and the fact that your non-spirit units are taking damage. Because when you are in Delta Slam, you cannot distribute the damage properly. So anything that isn't invulnerable will die if you're not careful, right? So you have to have sustain with it, or perhaps you need brutes, perhaps not just tanky in general. Because if you Delta Slam, they're the only ones on the board, which means they will be the only ones getting killed. Which is kind of the problem because then you would only have your spirits left, and I find that to be the issue with the spirit build. But the upside of the spirit build is that they do quite a lot of damage. Tin Man, they do a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
damage.
yeah. I have been up against spirit builds where they're running 4 or 5 spirits, and it feels like they're just constantly delta slamming and constantly like silencing and disarming the board. And I'm like, just let me out. I want to kill these guys, but they just constantly keep delta slamming because of the way the cooldowns overlap when you have more than 3 spirits. Unfortunately, in this game, it doesn't look like anybody's really trending that way. We see just one player going towards like a mage build. They've got the king is back here, running mages and has a storm spirit, but doesn't really look to go towards any other spirits. Now we kind of are starting to see some of the builds kind of solidifying here. The scrappy builds, both Leva and Pit to play here, looking towards a 4/6 scrappy build. Those have been very popular, running 4 inventors and dragons as the preferred pairing with that to deal some good magic damage.
Right.
We see Dot Shame with 4 brutes. And interesting to see what they end up pairing up with that. Obviously, Big Time Contract is going to get the Bloodbound bonus, but how else they kind of fill out this composition will be interesting. They are looking at some Scrappies, maybe some Dragons with a Dragon Knight on the bench, and some other various options. We've got Angel and Ceremonials both going with a Savage build for right now, which is kind of interesting. Savages were slightly buffed. They got a little bit more attack damage on that kind of hot fix that made some adjustments. And of course, King is back on mages, and Spieler DG near the bottom of the tables, but is running the Legion Commander comp. So a good amount of variety here. And of course, Ricardo bot on Knights, everyone's fan favorite.
Yeah, unfortunately, Night Trolls are not the meta, and we will not be seeing Ricardo bot anytime soon in the later stages. But in terms of, I want to talk about the Scrappy build a little bit, right? Because I wouldn't say nobody expected Scrappy build to come back full force, right? Because I remember when the jail was first initiated, it was just all about the Scrappy memes, like, oh, it's jail time Scrappy, you know what that means?
Yeah.
It's playable today too.
Yeah, every single day there was either Clockwork or Tinker or Timbersaw were always banned out, and it was just never good. And since then, there's been a number of adjustments. So we obviously introduced Snapfire, which is an additional inventor to the kind of, I know it's not a Scrappy, but Scrappy and Inventors are kind of paired alliances. You're always going to have both of them. And then Weaver was added to the Scrappy Alliance. So you basically added 2 more units to that build, or 2 more options, and that opened up a lot more possibilities. You now are it's much easier to get dragons online because Snapfire is a good dragon. It's much easier to get insects online since you have Weaver, and with just 2 insects. And it's much easier to get 4 inventors, which kind of lends itself well just a power spike on its own. So a lot of small factors kind of coming together to make Scrappies a much more potent force in the meta because it's so flexible and you can always find a build where, based on the units you're getting.
Yeah, and unlike Knights, right? You don't have to have 6 Scrappies. You really don't. You can stick with 4 Scrappies, and that's a perfectly reasonable build. And that's what makes it so versatile. Is that I could run 4 Scrappies with like Hunters, and it would work because Sniper's a Scrappy and Weaver is a Scrappy. I just put them both in, and then you put down like a Drow or like a Terrorblade, and then you have your 3 Hunters. Sure. And that is why they're so meta. Is that they're so versatile, right?
Exactly.
It's quite easy to see what build you could play. Alchemist is a Warlock. You can play Warlocks with them, and in fact, you just then infinitely sustain. And this is sort of the idea. And why they are so good right now is that everyone can play anything with them. Well, not anything, but like
but a lot of things. You've got the Hunters, as you mentioned. You've got dragons with Snapfire Dragon Knight. You've got Warlocks with the Alchemist. You've got just straight up Inventors for like just magic damage. You can go mages to buff that magic damage. Well, that's a little bit weaker now without techies, but even still, like you still see these players getting 4 Inventors at the moment. You can also go. I guess Assassins are kind of pretty bad, but I mean it's in theory feasible with Bounty Hunter and like Viper if you're going to run like Bounty Hunter, Viper plus another Assassin along with the Snapfire. That could be reasonable.
You put in you can put down Ember Spirit and then have Earth Spirit, and then you'd have the Spirit buff with that. It's not, again, it's just theoretical. I don't think it's the greatest build in the universe, but yeah.
There are a lot of options, and I think that's what's causing its high popularity. And also insects. We didn't even mention insects, of course, that now that's 2/4 insects. Getting 2 insects is like trivial with the Weaver, and then you just throw in either Broodmother or Nyx Assassin right away at the start of the game, and that provides a strong early power spike. Unfortunately, the crowd favorite Ricardo Bot has bit the dust here on round 16. He put up a good fight. He won a number of rounds, but sorry, Ricardo. Better luck next time. Your Knight's troll build, just not really getting it done here.
Yeah, that was like, what, 5 patches ago, 6 patches ago, Ricardo?
Well, so we don't see any of our real players here playing Knights outside of Spieler, who just has 2 Knights, which is just for the Legion Commander bonus. But I have seen players be successful with Knights on ladder. I've seen some amount of Knights do well. If you can get Knights plus, they pair pretty well with Zhal as the Underlord, because
because of the damage reduction.
Yeah, the damage reduction means that his effective healing on them is quite a bit more potent, and they want to be upfront and personal, sticking together adjacent to each other, and that's where Zhal's really good, is when everybody's nice and adjacent to each other. So I've seen people have success with that. We're not going to see that in this game, but I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody do well with it at some point today during this finals.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see up a mix-up, but the thing is, the meta right now, the flavor of the patch is the fact that Savages got buffed, and Venomancer is again, ya boy. It is the sleeper hyper carry. You cannot be. You cannot sleep on this man. Like, if we follow Ceremonials here for a bit, he does have a Venomancer running with an LGC Hobgin. So I am like scared for anybody
and Troll Alliance. That extra 10% attack speed has a Hand of Midas for an extra 30 attack speed. Like, let's watch how high on damage this Venomancer gets. He might get burst down by these mages, but we'll have to see if he does survive some burst. This Venomancer is going to get pretty strong.
Venomancer getting a few hits off right now. Unfortunately, not attacking fast enough. LGC gonna finally get popped, but he might get killed off by this Enigma.
No, he's good.
No, he's not.
Plus 210 damage when he finally died. That is, that's plus 200% damage, right? Because he has 100 baseline damage, and he had plus 210. So you can easily see how quickly that ramps up. Was able to take the win just barely there over the mages, and mages are probably the worst type of matchup for this build, just because you have, currently they don't have any scaled involved, and they're much more about the sustained, long, drawn-out fights, and if you're going to get burst down, that's not really helpful to that kind of strategy, but we still see Ceremonials coming away with the win there over the King is Back on that particular round. And there's actually two players running 4 Savages, both Angel and Ceremonials. 2 of our top players right now are opting for 4 Savages, which now gives plus 10 bonus damage per auto attack, and that is pretty powerful. And we'll see if Ceremonials can do it again here.
Yeah, Ceremonials going against Shame here, again shoving with the Savages. The backline here is the most important thing to watch out for, because they will be the infinite scaling units in this game. The Warlocks as well going to try and keep that sustain going. LGC is finally popped, and you can see the difference of the Venomancer being unable to be stopped, and 4,500 damage by his lone sword.
I don't think Venomancer took a single point of damage that whole fight. Let me drop over to that tab. Damage taken. Venomancer took 360 from 1 Tinker missile. Other than that,
a missile to the face.
Most of the backline never took a damage. Hobgen, Enchantress, Batrider never took a single point of damage that whole fight. That is just a testament to how this build is constructed, is that if your front line can hold up and keep your backline guys safe, like we saw there, it's not remotely close. They just run over everybody.
Ceremonials closing in on a 2-star Troll Warlord. Already has a 2nd Troll Warlord in his shop.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be extremely dangerous to see. Dragon Knight is still on his bench as well, so I'm not sure if he wants Dragon Knight instead of a Troll Warlord. I don't suppose you want that over Troll Warlord, so
it's hard to say. I've had builds where I try to go up to 4 Trolls, and I feel like as soon as I switch over to 4 Trolls is when I start losing. And I'm not sure if that's the fault of the rest of the build or the Trolls, just the payoff just isn't there, because you kind of lack some defensive options then. You're cutting either Brutes or Druids or some of your front line or some of your CC to fit in all those Trolls. And I'm not sure if the payoff's really there. Really, as long as you can keep something like this Venomancer safe, then that's really what's going to carry you the fight. I don't know if you necessarily need more damage in this type of build.
That is absolutely fair enough. Butterfly on
Butterfly is a very strong brand new item here in this latest patch. It is kind of a jack of all trades item. Gives you some offense with attack damage, some attack speed to scale with that attack damage, and some evasion if you're going to be getting attacked. So I think it goes really well on units that are kind of not your primary tank, because generally they don't do a whole lot of damage, so not great on Axe or Treant, but somebody who's going to be up in the front line and potentially getting attacked, somebody like Alchemist, who can benefit from both the attack damage, attack speed, and the evasion. That's a 2-star Troll Warlord, though. That is definitely going to go in here for Ceremonials. That's going to get the Butterfly, right?
That is going to get the Butterfly, most likely.
Yes, just barely in time.
Warlord. Will be going against Leva with a scrappy composition. He's going to be worried that he might be facing some dragons here. There are no insects in this composition, so he won't have to worry about backline evasion. Pushing forward, Scrappies are unable to really do some damage in the backline, again, because they explode point blank. The dragon buff actually from Snapfire wasn't working very well, got stunned in fact after the first volley, but the Venomancer dies. Troll Warlord is not attacking the right targets, but the Butterfly buying him some time. The insects for the side of Ceremonials, actually giving him some good headway, but now it's just Dragon Knight versus Hobgen, and unfortunately Hobgen does not have very good Explosivo damage, but he does have insects on his side, so he will have time. That massive damage is still quite a lot, but it's up to the insects now, and the light on fire, but the insects dies immediately.
Oh, so close. So that Dragon Knight
will stay alive
with 151 HP, so very close. To that one. In the meantime, we did actually see one of our players drop out. A Shame running the 4 Brutes, unfortunately did drop. And I was not expecting that. I was expecting King is Back, if anybody, to fall. So let's follow them and see if they can hold on here at just 9 life with the 6 Mage composition. It kind of has all come together. It has the 2-star Dragon Knight, has the 3-star Morphling, and all 6 Mages, but is only level 7, whereas some of the other players are level 8 or 9.
I'm surprised Morphling does not have the Octarine Essence. I think that would be the better option, just so he gets more waveforms off. But
Mhm.
again, Sword Spirit with an Octarine Essence, certainly not bad. Dragonite is in the front line, but however, he doesn't have the Dragon form. But look at that burst damage. Obliterates the entire Scrappy composition. Waveform twice, just kills off the entirety of the enemy team. But his team is also quite dwindling, but it should be fine because Weaver's the only one alive. And the Maelstrom actually doing quite a bit of damage there for Maiden.
Sure is, and yeah. So this build's quite impressive, and I do agree with you. You know, Morphling with an Octarine Essence is very powerful. Getting that even shorter cooldown to just constantly be casting this very powerful waveform effect. But on the other side, he's gonna be racking up a lot of kills, right? Because he's the one dealing the most biggest chunk of the damage. And if you are just survivable with the bonus health from Stonehull Cloak, I guess it makes sense that you're asking how many waveforms can I pump out in a fight, and if you have a whole bunch of bonus health, that means you're going to survive for an extra couple seconds, and maybe you get an extra waveform off anyway. So I think that's the logic there, is just kind of be most efficient with that, whereas the other options for a Stonehull Cloak are just not as appealing as this Morphling.
This does not look good for Spieler here. He is running a Legion Commander composition. He didn't get the dual win, but he's already dead. Legion Commander is most of your burst damage, and look at that obliteration for the side of King is back. Just destroy Spieler's team, and unfortunately, the Legion Commander player is going to be going out in 5th place. Or 6th place.
No, my Legion Commander. I love Legion Commander, but unfortunately, that is a tough situation there. Spieler was just a little bit behind. Did not even have a scaled bonus. Was running 4 Savages, which is not really ideal with a Legion Commander. Generally, you want to be avoiding getting 3 or 4 of a kind. You really want to get just 2 of every alliance to maximize Legion Commander, and even then, you really need to be snowballing and getting ahead. And unfortunately, it seems like they just ran into this mage build that just absolutely is demolishing everybody with this big power spike of the 3-star Morphling, the 2-star Dragonite, Dragon bonus, and all. And I feel like King is Back is going to do very well into a lot of these builds because there is no scaled bonus to be seen for anybody on the table.
And unfortunately for Scrappy compositions, it doesn't apply naturally, right? You cannot really get that scale buff naturally. So we will see King is Back here fight Pit to Play with the Scrappy composition, waveform out, the initial one at least. The Sniper gets obliterated by the Caudal Blast. In fact, all of his entire team.
The Morphling was just absurd. It was just absolutely absurd. He deals 450 damage with that waveform, and then that's multiplied by 75%. So that's dealing so incredibly much damage to the entire team. It cast 2 waveforms, and each one dealt like 4,000 some damage because it hit everybody on the team.
Absolutely.
And one of the big problems with Scrappies, as you kind of alluded to, was that Scrappies are a great meta composition, as we discussed earlier. The big problem, though, is that the Scrappy bonus itself gives armor and health regeneration. Armor is only good against physical damage, not against the magic damage from mages. Health regeneration is not great when you're getting burst down in 5 seconds. Exactly. You're not going to regen that much in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I believe, if my math is correct, I believe Waveform is doing like not 900, but 800 damage a hit.
Sounds about right.
So yeah, so something along those lines. He will be against Angel here, who also cannot afford to lose, as he's currently low as well. Requiem gonna pop out here, but it's not gonna match or hold a candle against this Caudal Blast that's about to emit. But the entire team's already dead. Caudal doesn't even have to do anything. That blast is gonna whiff, but it doesn't matter because Sword Spirit 3-star and Morphling 3-star is gonna do all the cleaning.
Yeah, we did miss that. Got the Storm Spirit 3-star there, which is also incredibly good with this Ball Lightning. He basically Ball Lightnings, autos once, Ball Lightnings again, autos once, back and forth every 2 seconds.
Oh,
and
God.
Yeah, this burst, like, I was afraid King's Back was going to lose this game very early because they dropped to 9 life, really, like, before anybody else was very low. And now I'm putting my money down for King's Back to win the game. I know there's a 55 health difference, or like Leva still has 55 HP. I don't think it's going to be close. I think King is Back can run over this game with the completely uncontested mages.
Butterfly as well.
And yeah, Butterfly's going to be great on a Dragon Knight here, just to give you a little bit more tankiness in the front line, and just some of that evasion and bonus attack damage and attack speed.
It's not all sunshines and rainbows, though. Ceremonials did get a pipe of insight, so that will be very dangerous for mage builds in particular. That is a 50% magic resistance, which means that this Morphling and this Sorcerer will not do as much, but the problem is the fact that this Morphling has 4,500 HP due to Stonehull Cloak and getting 33 kills. And that is sort of the issue you're going to have to try and play against. We'll see who he fights, but
Interesting.
Ceremonials, in fact.
Has opted to swap the items, put the Stonehall Cloak on Viper, who has only 2 kills, instead wanting to put Kaya on Morphling, just because Kaya is the main or the Morphling is the main damage source here, and Kaya will just increase that damage output by 20%. I think it's definitely viable, but I still kind of like the idea of Stonehall Cloak on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. This may be an oversight on his part. I don't think plus 20% damage is better than having an extra 1500 HP, because an extra waveform is not as good as just 20% more damage on one waveform, right? That is, that does not convert very well. So I'm not quite sure what his idea is with this Viper Stonehall Cloak. Obviously, Viper will eventually rack up some kills, but I agree. I think Nether Toxin. I mean, amplifying Nether Toxin is actually quite good.
At least put it on somebody like Razor, who has 22 kills. Like, I know Razor's not as impactful as Viper, but like, come on, 20 more kills, like. I think it may have just been a last second kind of adjustment, but even so, like, I still think this composition is just so incredibly powerful that I wouldn't be surprised to see them just run over the rest of this game. Up against Leva here, both King is back and Leva are both on a good win streak here. Leva does not have scaled, but does have. Oh no, Viper's not scaled anymore, so not even close to one.
Not scaled anymore. Scrappy compositions. This is their big weakness: is the fact that you cannot actually opt into some mage defenses, right? Scaled is not natural for Scrappy. They sort of just have to live with this Omega Burst, and unfortunately for them, neither of the main damage dealers for the mages were dead by the end of it. Hit to play, unfortunately. Speaking of which, dead will be falling to Ceremonials.
The other
again, has another unique build. Yeah.
The other Scrappy build does fall here, so now. Some of the units that Leva's been trying to 3-star out are going to be returned to the pool. There's going to be a couple more Tinkers and Clockworks in there. So that's pretty much Leva's last hope, really, I think, is to get some of these 3-star units on board. So hopefully they can survive the burst from mages. But honestly, I'm not liking it if I'm Ceremonials or Leva here. I think King is Back is just going to run over this game.
Yeah, speaking of Leva, he will be fighting King is Back here. The real King is Back this time. And we will be trying to see what he can do with this push advantage. The mages, of course, just going to obliterate everything. The Razor, Plasma Field, and the Sword Spirit, and the Waveform going to just all coincide, obliterating everything in their path. Counter Blast comes in just to secure the rest of the fight, and it's not even close.
Turns out mages are pretty good when they're uncontested and get 3 stars, especially Morphling. I think Morphling is the real... I mean, I know Morphling has the highest damage, and so it's like it's not a bold statement to say he's the real carry here, but if you look at his stats on his ability, Waveform scales pretty poorly. It goes 100 damage, and then 175 at 2-star. Like, not a big increase, but then, holy crap, it goes up to 450. It more than doubles. It doubles and then adds 100. To go from 2 to 3-star. I don't think there's any other ability in the game that scales quite that hard. Most abilities don't even double from 2 to 3. That doubles and then some.
Yeah, paying homage to the to waveform in normal Dota, or actually just Morphling in normal Dota. Garbage everywhere else but the late game, and we're seeing that here as he's just cleaning up the mess. And Source Spirit, as well, is not one to scoff at. His damage output is quite similar, not as a lot. Especially even at 3-star, but it's still pretty deadly.
Yeah, certainly is. Like, even if the Morphling gets locked down somehow, I don't know, maybe it gets doomed right away or something. It
that would be,
doesn't even matter. This build can still win. It still has plenty of other damage sources from a Kaya, Keeper of the Light, so he's dealing a ton of damage. Octarine Storm Spirit's hard to lock down, and he's going to be constantly zipping around the board. And even pick up a Lich. Why not? Just pick up a Lich, throw that in.
Icing on the cake, he could potentially swap out the Crystal Maiden for this, as he already has Dragonite for the mana amp, and he doesn't really need that Maiden anymore. Actually opts in for the Gyrocopter instead of the Lich here. Probably gonna keep the Razor. Razor damage is pretty solid. So.
I think Gyrocopter does a touch more than Razor, assuming he gets a good call down on a decent number of targets. So that's not that surprising.
Yeah, we'll see if Ceremonials is able to deal with this. Actually, Kono dies beforehand, and there looks to be... It's quite closer this time, but unfortunately, Morphling still alive, and Sorcerer will clean up Hobgin. Ceremonials got quite close, but still not close enough.
Yeah, Morphling and Storm Spirit were still alive at the end there, so was still quite a strong win here. I don't want to completely discount the other two players here. Ceremonials and Leva both... have had great games so far, and maybe with these tier 5 items, might have a chance to turn it around here. We do see King's Back has the option between Radiance, Dagon, and Satanic. Both of the Satanic is an interesting new lifesteal item that gives you a lot of lifesteal when you drop low. I don't know if it's that great of an item for this type of a build.
Okay.
Oh, he's disconnected and is.
Okay, okay, he's fine. It's okay, guys.
Well, did pick a Dagon there, which does deal magic damage, so it's kind of relevant. What did Ceremonials pick up here?
Ceremonials picked up a BKB, and Leva picked up a Butterfly, which are both good, but I don't think they're going to be game changing. In fact, King is back. Really has Leva rather has to really see what he can do with this new Butterfly, especially with his new composition waveform in, and the Butterfly user is already getting targeted down by the Morphling. Another waveform, not necessary because he just waveformed back into the actual fight, and it's already cleaned up. It's just the Morphling and the Sorcerer actually, and the Viper's still alive. The magic user.
This Viper can't be killed.
The Viper is still alive. Finally gets killed off by the Sword Spirit jump, and unfortunately, Leva did not do enough. King is back. Unfortunately, had suffered the same fate, and will fall to King is back. King is back. Again, the player to beat for Leva. Let's follow Leva here.
Actually, there's Ceremonials is out. Did lose to the Ghost of King's Back. We know that this mage build has just been so incredibly strong, but now the question is, what does Leva do to counteract this? There's no scaled on this board. There's not even a single scaled here, and you gotta be thinking that, you know, it's nice to have the 6 Scrappy, but come on, 6 Scrappy doesn't matter at all at this point. It is like cut the Scrappy and just throw in any 2 scaled that you can find.
Perhaps removing the Weaver, removing the Sniper, who are not necessary in this fight, would have been a good choice, but instead decides to spread out. But it doesn't really matter if you have 2 long-range units like the Morphling and the Sword Spirit, who just cleans up everything in its path. The Morphling is going to get picked off here or not, because he just waveformed out. The Morphling is still alive, finally gets popped because of the Venomous skin. But Leva has to do more here because the Sword Spirit will be dealing 5 damage minimum, and the Hovgen as well deals 2 extra damage. Therefore, mathematically, he is not dead because I did math wrong. That is not enough. He survived at 1 HP. As the round damage was not enough. I guess. Yeah,
3 round damage plus 3 for a 3-star.
And then 2 from Hovgen, I guess. I thought Hovgen would do more.
No, the Underlords do a little bit less damage, and also the formula for calculating exactly how much damage everything done has been slightly altered in this patch. We haven't really touched on it because it doesn't affect too many situations, but I think in that case, Storm Spirit still does 3 damage. But in some cases, like if you have a 3-star of a 4-cost unit, like say a 3-star Doom or a 3-star Coddle, they'll actually deal 4 damage rather than just 3 if they survive.
Absolutely. Well, we're not getting any 4-star, 3-stars here, unfortunately, and it looks like actually the Scrappies are surviving this time. The waveform is not enough. It doesn't actually focus down the 4 primary targets. It's just the Morphling left against the Viper. Viper is not gonna be dying anytime soon. The Golem gets risen as well. Morphling gets to kill off this Viper before he deals with the Golem, but he gets rooted to the ground. He's gonna go down. King is back. Stays in this fight, but that's actually a loss. That
is the first time King is back has lost in quite a long time. That is a massive win streak that just got disrupted there. We'll see if that if they actually can fall, or if Leva can take it down here. No scale, but just like the spread out strategy seems to be working, where the hope is that some important target doesn't get killed. In that case, Anesix did not get killed until she was able to cast her Golem. And in previous fights, we had not seen that Golem come out at any point. So by putting her kind of on an opposite side to some of the other important units, the hope is that maybe the Waveforms and the Coddle Blasts don't target the Anesix, and then she can survive long enough to get that Golem out.
We'll see if he's able to do it again. It's quite close, this matchup, but the burst, look at that. It's not even from the mages. In fact, it's from the opposing team. The Scrappies are doing enough, but no! The Waveform and the Sword Spirit just doing too much damage as the Viper is the last one standing.
Yeah, that time the NSX did get Focus Fire down, got hit by the Explosivo, got hit by the Call Down, and the Mage build is able to take that down after... Well, what was a very impressive run, being down in 7th place, and I was thinking, oh, we should spectate them because they're about to get eliminated in 7th, and they just get on a hot streak, get that 3-star Morphling, which is a massive power spike, and just ride that all the way to victory against opponents who just could never find enough space in their build to put in Scaled. We don't see a single Scaled anywhere on board in this final scoreboard, and that's if you don't do that, mages are going to run you right over.
Absolutely reminds me of when assassins are uncontested, right? Nobody expects them. and then they come back and you're like, wait, what happened? And then suddenly assassins just win the game, and that is
Yeah.
because unfortunately, the circumstances that nobody was countering that, or no one was preparing against it. And that was sort of the issue there. But besides that fact, again, scrappies do not build naturally into scale, so that's a tidbit for everybody who wants to play against scrappies. Play mages, I guess, or perhaps just a lot of damage. I'm not quite sure what the other counters for scrappies are. In fact, Tim, you have more insight on that? Because
so one of the biggest, if scrappies are going to be very popular in meta, which I suspect they're going to be very popular today, is that mages, obviously the most important thing to deal with scrappies. The other thing about scrappies is that they don't have very high damage output. They really do struggle to deal through or deal enough damage to get through the healing of something like warlocks. So if there's a bunch of warlocks that are, 4 or 6 warlocks and just constantly healing up, the scrappies are just not going to have enough damage output to burn through that, or not the single target damage output to burn through things like warlocks. So we'll have to see if those kind of counters come up. But in any other case, I think scrappies are very favored against some of the other mid to low damage compositions, things like brutes that rely on tankiness and kind of sustain to punch through, and then constantly applying that brute debuff. I think scrappies are very strong against brutes. They're pretty... They can be strong against assassins. It kind of depends, because the way the inventor bonus works is that the assassins are always going to be up close and personal, so that the inventor bonus can beat up on assassins, but that's kind of a close matchup. And scrappies are also very good against things like knights or warriors, which we didn't see too much of, but they kind of fall in the same category as brutes, that they rely on their defense and sustain damage output, and scrappies are just going to hard counter that. So you want to either out-sustain them with warlocks or burst them down with mages if you really want to be able to beat up on the scrappies.
Speaking of which, actually, speaking of assassin, right, the removal of the elusive buff actually really hurts them, because their alliance was all about this singularity, this solo style. You wouldn't play assassins with anything else, but now suddenly the removal of the elusives means that you kind of have to rely on another alliance. But it feels as though 3 assassins is not as good as 6 assassins anyway, regardless. And I've not been really feeling how to build assassin in this meta, because it's just really rough going from 3 to 6, but also keeping it at 3 for transitioning into the late game.
Yeah,
doesn't feel like a lot of assassin.
I totally agree with that. The assassins have fallen away from like a strong meta build that you always can go assassins and have reasonable success. Now with so many less of them, especially the elusives, the Phantom Assassin and Templar out, I haven't seen them be super successful. I've seen some people win games with assassins, but they're a little bit more rare, certainly, than they used to be, where sometimes they would, one player in a game would play it, and then they'd get a bunch of 3 stars and just crush the game. And other times, you just don't see any of them anywhere. So they're definitely not a popular meta composition, but when they do work and they're uncontested, kind of like how we saw King is back there with the mages, if you're just able to get 3 star on things like Ember Spirit or Queen of Pain, or I guess those are probably 2 of the big ones, since Phantom Assassin is gone and Slark got moved up. You really want that AoE magic damage, or AoE just damage from Ember Spirit and Queen of Pain as some of the big carries there. And if you can get those to 3 star, they can definitely carry you into the late game.
Yeah, I feel like Ember Spirit and Slark are probably the 2 biggest damage dealers on the assassins now, and that's sort of my issue at the moment, right? Because I don't feel like Bounty Hunter turns the late game as an assassin doesn't feel nice. Neither does Nyx. Neither does Queen of Pain. Yes, Queen of Pain does a lot of AoE damage, but late game, when you need that single target focus, which assassins that's their main primary goal, is to eliminate things quite quickly, single target wise.
I think that may be changing. I think that may be changing because of the removal of 2 of the single target assassins, Templar and Phantom, and the increase of cost of Slark. I think the single target focus of assassins is actually kind of gone. You can still run like Viper, who's actually pretty good at single target damage in assassins now with his Nether Toxin, but I think the power points are the AoE assassins now, the Ember Spirit and the Queen of Pain. So that's what has been my impression of the past couple days here, is that those are the 2 really powerful units, and if they can get off the ground early, get them up to 3 star, then you have a good chance to do well.
Ember Spirit, speaking of which, right, is the only one who actually benefits from his ability and from the assassin buff coincidentally. That's not the right word, but regardless, you know what I mean. Like it works.
Those are the only two that overlap. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And along with the Battle Fury, Ember Spirit becomes a monster, and that's always been the statement, and that hasn't changed, right? That hasn't stopped being true. But now the problem is the fact that if you want the assassin buff with that cleave, you got to commit to other things, and I feel as though Ember Spirit can't carry every game. I mean, even before the patch, Ember Spirit couldn't carry every game. You really did need extra assassins or other assassins that would carry their own weight on top of Ember Spirit, who would reduce everyone to very low HPs. And I'm just interested to see how they run it. Perhaps we'll see assassins in a spirit build. You know, we might see like a
possibly, yeah. I'd be very curious to see if you run Ember Spirit plus assassins or something like that. That definitely can be something to watch out for in the rest of this day. I know we've saw some of the meta comps that we are going to be expecting, but there's a lot of variety that we haven't seen in this first game that may be coming up in the future rounds here. We will have a couple more rounds coming up here, but there's going to be a slight delay, so we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be just back in a few moments, and we'll bring you round 2, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with round 2 of the Underlords Pro Season 4 Grand Finals. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We're going to be getting into round 2 here in just a moment. Sorry so much for the delay. There's been a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we are sorting through it. We're just going to have to be a little bit delayed. But the show must go on, as this is the grand finals. So, in the meantime, we'll be just discussing a little bit more about what we're expecting to see in this next round, as we'll be getting into the next, in round 2 in, I don't know, probably the next few moments here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
There definitely is. There's plenty of air to fill here.
Yeah, we've like only scratched the surface. We didn't even make it to items we were discussing. So, I mean, going through some stuff, right? We got some good adjustments. We saw it there, but open fort builds are more popular, and we didn't really go in depth with some of the reasons perhaps why. I think some of the reasons why is obviously, first of all, if you guys didn't know, you get 7 gold per round now, regardless if you win or lose. And I think that's what have made open fort much easier. Is that you don't actually like win streaking is harder because again, you don't have those breathing room rounds to check your build and such. You just have to keep going and going and going like a marathon. And so the likeliness of you winning 7 rounds in a row goes down. Of course, you then don't have that time in between to rev up your build. So that's a reason why potentially we see those lose streaks not happen more often.
Yeah, we saw, what was it, 3 players going for a lose streak, and I don't remember the exact placement of all of them, but the winner was not on a lose streak initially. The winner, King's Dead, was definitely playing the game the entire time. So it's a little bit debatable merit. You know, there's some strengths to it, some weaknesses, but no, actually, our top 2, neither of one. Leva wasn't on it. Was, I think, Spieler, or no, Ceremonials was 3rd place in that last game, right?
Ceremonials was 3rd place, and he did play open fort. So
okay, so it's possible.
Yeah. It is viable. Of course, I wouldn't recommend it because, as I mentioned, the board is also bench space. So like, there's no reason not to put units on the board. So that is, it's a gambit. You know, you want to save up money, you want to get that instant investment early on. But then again, personally, I don't think it's such a great idea, especially losing that much HP. Again, of course, the justification is that it's not 11 HP. I'm not gonna worry about that 10 HP later down the line. But
yeah, it's not. It's not the worst thing in the world to be losing the opening couple rounds, and with the increased gold income, I guess it makes a little bit of sense. You know, you are getting 7 gold right away as your baseline gold. You know, once you kind of get past the opening couple rounds, and that means that you ramp up your gold a little bit better, and you don't need to rely on. Winning the rounds to get that win streak bonus, and you can still afford to buy everything and then buy everything with the rerolls as well. So I'll be very curious to see if we see more players doing that. I think they somewhat shot themselves in the foot there with multiple people doing it. Occasionally they would have a draw against each other, and that's not ideal for the losing streak strategy because a draw is not a loss. But
yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, I was surprised to see anybody doing it at all because I had not seen that in any of the ranked games I've played. So seeing 3 people do it was a big surprise. We'll see if that does continue, especially with the relative lack of success, I'll say, with it. Only one of the people getting to the top 3 in that group.
I don't think it's the best strategy in the universe. It is a strategy, right? There's a difference. The difference between a good strategy and a strategy, and it's certainly I wouldn't do it myself. So it's something. Another thing to note, right, is that we talked about this a little bit. Assassins without the elusive buff is not very assassiny. And Primordials got absolutely nerfed. I would say not only was Arc Warden removed, but Enigma was removed.
Yeah, Primordials have taken a big hit for sure. They've been through some ups and downs, right? They've been from overpowered previously, and then when it was 6 Primordials, like, oh my goodness, 6 Primordials are so strong, the best meta build, and then they got nerfed, and then nerfed again, and then no one played them, and then the 6 Primordials got removed, and it's been all downhill since then.
it's all downhill. They're like, all right, you've had your 5 Primordials, all right, time to. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was unusual that the fact that Primordial still had summoned unit when they removed everything that buffed summoned units, which made, well, like, it makes sense to remove the summoned units, right? They didn't want summoned units in the game anymore. But the thing is that, like, the Eidolons in general were so weak when they removed that, and then they added that third alliance level that they're supposedly supposed to buff that, and it did. But then it suddenly they were too strong because, again, the more units you have, the worse it is for the enemy. And so it's really hard to balance trying to make Eidolons be useful, but also at the same time not too strong, because that was the problem. They were too strong. But
they were way too strong at 3 stars. They were a massive like tanky because they had so much armor and health, and then also good damage output. And at some points, it's like I want my primordial to die so that I can get an Eidolon instead, because the Eidolon's more powerful than the unit.
Yeah, exactly. If you have like a 1-star tiny, you don't care if it dies. You have an Eidolon that suddenly has Maleficent on.
But
of course, you have an Enigma as well.
But of course, that has now been removed from the game. So any strategy revolving around that is might have to wait till season 1, where we might see another unit rotation, and maybe they'll come back in. Some of the other stuff that got changed in the big patch recently was new items. We haven't really talked too much about the items, and I'm curious about your thoughts on there's been, I think, 20 or 21 new items added to the game. A lot of them have been rebalanced, and I think in general have been buffed. Now it seems like in general most items are stronger than they used to be before. So lots of new variety, and I dare say there's very few bad items left in the game where like you just never want to pick them.
I would be absolutely curious about what you put on your tier list, like in rating the items on each tier, because I do find we'll start from the worst items in each tier, and then we'll go up from there, right? Because obviously we want to know. Personally, I find that the Vit Booster is now probably the worst item in that tier. It is a flat health bonus versus something like Evasion. I personally,
Vitality
think,
Booster
I think Voidstone,
pretty bad. Big time contract is really bad if you're not gonna run Bloodbound. If you just blind pick it on turn 1, if you just blind pick it on turn 1, it potentially is completely worthless because it doesn't give any health anymore. But other than that, Vitality Booster is pretty bad. I'm actually not a huge fan of Morbid Mask.
Really?
I mean, 20% lifesteal is okay, but like in most cases, it is. It's lifesteal is valuable on certain units, but most of those units who are going to be dealing lots of damage that would be lifestealed, then I generally want a different item, right? They're generally going to want an attack damage or an attack speed item, and just lifesteal alone is generally not enough for them to really be good into the late stages of the game.
Well, technically speaking, tier 1 items are not supposed to go late into the game. So, just from perspective wise, right? Early game, that 20% lifesteal, that's a lot of lifesteal. Unlike if you get like a lifestealer early in the game, that's quite a bit. That does amp up their their damage output or sustain. I think on the opposing end, right? Personally, I think Vit Booster and Voidstone are probably the bottom of that tier. The top of this tier, I would argue, would be Kaya and Gloves of Haste, honestly.
Yeah, both of those scale very well into the later stages of the game because they're kind of a percentage bonus increase. The Kaya, obviously, we saw that to great effect in the winning mage build last game with the Kaya on the mages, increasing the damage from Keeper of Light in particular. And, of course, Gloves of Haste goes really well with any kind of physical damage carry that is going to be hitting pretty hard. Dragon Knight or the Savages we saw ramp up very fast with the extra attack speed. So definitely those ones scale better in the late game, whereas most tier 1 items don't. I also like Chainmail for that reason too. The bonus armor does a pretty good job as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving on to the second tier, let's talk about the bottom items tier. Orb of Venom. Is it just me, or I feel like it's garbage? I feel like it's so bad.
Force Staff, Barricade, and Arcane Boots I'm going to put below Orb of Venom. I actually Orb of Venom is it's not great. I'm not gonna sit here and say Orb of Venom is a great item, but I think it has its place. It does some respectable damage output in the early and mid game, and even in the late game, if you put it on something like Medusa, that's essentially adding 90 damage per split shot. Assuming it applies to all of the opponents. So. It's not the best. It's not a Desolator. It's no Stonehall Pike. It's no Hand of Midas. But I put it like middle low on the tier for sure.
like personally, if I see that, I don't even pick it up. Like I agree barricades, but when they nerfed its value, I was like, why? Like I understand it's because you reduced all of the health pool, but why? It's already bad as it is. You don't have to
Yeah.
nerf its HP health total as well. Give it a third barricade. That's everyone. Regardless,
Hmm.
right? People would argue Force Staff is still in the bottom tiers. I'm assuming you're agreeing with that as well,
Yep.
right? Is that
Definitely.
it's not very great. And on the opposite end, of course, we have Chrysalis as probably the best item in this tier, arguably. Aside from Stonehold Pike. Yes, I did forget about
I like Stonehall Pike, and I think I like Desolator a bit better than Crystallis. Just the ability to focus fire down targets. The -5 armor shred is pretty impactful. Crystallis can be good for sure. I think Desolator provides a bit more consistent power to your like entire team because you're able to focus fire single targets rather than Crystallis is good on individual units. But they're both great. They're both great items for sure.
Stonehold Pike, I think personally, is an infinite scaling item that can really work.
Definitely like Stonehall Pike. It goes very well on Legion commanders because she's going to rack up lots of kills. Also goes really well on something like Sniper, who with Deadeye bonus gets lots of kills, with his Assassinate gets lots of kills. So there's a lot of power there for different builds.
I find that Bloodseeker with a Stonehold Pike, especially if you get him kills early, is a monster. Especially if you like pair him with like an ogre. Oh my god, the Bloodseeker becomes an actual hard carry because suddenly he scales.
Mm-hmm.
Because suddenly he isn't that guy that dies in 5 seconds. He's that guy that's killing people in 5 seconds. So it's so good in general how much damage that does.
Yeah, and he's always hitting the lowest health target if you get the Deadeye bonus. So always getting those kills and just constantly scaling up. And it scales within the round. It's not like when he gets the kill, he just gets the bonus attack right away. I think previously like the Brawny bonus would only count kills like at the start of the round, but this can actually scale up during the fight. So if he's getting multiple kills, his next target within that same fight he's grabbing bonus increased attack. So
yeah. Next, in terms of next tier, actually, speaking of which, how's the lobby look before we continue?
We've got 6 of the 8 players in, so we're just waiting for a couple more people to join up, and then we'll be into the next round here in just a moment. Sorry, we've had some technical delays, some issues with our organization here, but the show must go on, so we are just doing this manually, and it looks like we've got everybody in the lobby. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's 8, and so we should be getting started here once everybody readies up, and we'll be getting into round 2 of our Season 4 Grand Finals here. Sorry for the delay once again, but looks like we are good to go.
Oh yeah, it's starting very soon. Another thing to mention is Battle Fury got moved down a tier, which firstly I'm surprised. But they didn't see Ember Spirit. Well, to be fair, Ember Spirit got his entire alliance got nerfed, so that the concern with the Battle Fury it's much less than it usually was. But yeah, game is going underway.
Looks like we are loading into the game, so no more fillers. We're gonna actually get back into the game with the good players here. And so no bots, unfortunately. No, we can't cheer for Ricardo bot this time. But instead we can cheer for one of the 8 players here who did very well in their first rounds here. Of course, our winner from the first game, King, is back, who was running the mage build last game. And we see a lot of other top names. Who was Leva was second place in the game we watched, and then Ceremonial's third. So, and then some new fresh faces here.
Yeah, Tecado as well. All of these names, all familiar to me personally. I've seen all of them at least once. It's no pun intended. One of them in the game. But Tecado and Ceremonials get punished for their fort build immediately.
Open fort build immediately draws. This is a beautiful board state here. Just a nice, clean, pristine board. No one, just a gentleman's agreement to, we're not going to take any damage from anybody. Let's watch some of the actual interesting games though, on the other hand, since
unfortunately nothing on a board is not very entertaining. Funnily enough, the I don't think that was the plan. I really don't think that was the plan, was to draw the match there. Personally, I'm pretty sure.
That's what we saw last game too, was where several people were going for this open fort strategy and were immediately punished with a first round draw. So
Yeah, so
Uh,
they don't get their extra free reroll. Neither of them do, so a bit rough, but
yeah, we'll have to
it is what it is.
keep an eye on those two. Tatato and Ceremonials are both going for this open fort early, and we'll see if that pays off for them in the long run. Of course, we saw just Ceremonials getting third place with this kind of open fort strategy last game, and none of the other two who went for it were able to finish in the top three. So that was maybe not the best of strategy for them, but we'll see what happens here. We see Tatato actually puts in 2 units just to avoid another draw if it does get paired up against another open fort player again, but it's just running 2 instead to kind of ensure that you continue to lose the round just because you're down a unit.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if he got a kill here, but it's not going to happen, unfortunately. Again, he didn't expect to win this regardless, but not even a kill. Just kind of sucks. Takes 4 damage, but whatever. Again, 100 HP. 4 damage is going to be nothing. Ceremonials took 5 as well. Again, open fort strategy, keeping all the economy to himself. In fact, Ceremonials don't have any money on him, which is confusing.
So what you can do is you lock in your interest at the start of combat. So what they probably did was sold off, locked in the interest, and then just bought from the shop. Or maybe you actually didn't. Oh no, you can't do that because you don't even have that much gold, right? Because you get 5 on the first turn and then 4 on the second turn. So you wouldn't have even had 10 possible.
Yeah, you have to win to get the extra 10 gold immediately.
But then if you win, you need to sell off your whole board with just 1. Which why would you do that? Because it just won a game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, and that is the weird niche of the open fort, right? You literally cannot mathematically you cannot get the economy you want until this
round 3, yeah,
finally gets,
where we see Ceremonials gets up to 10 gold here, and is able to collect the interest and then buy some more stuff out of the shop, while just taking 3 damage.
To be fair, anyone who's opposing these open fort strategies are pretty damn happy themselves. Like they're just like, free win.
Not only do they set themselves a little bit behind in life total, at least, in exchange for possibly a better, better gold economy, better unit selection, but everybody else kind of gets some free wins on the board here, and so the other players got to be like that. I know last game we saw that the people who were actually playing, reasonable strategies and were trying to win the rounds, like there's a lot of people at like 5-1, 6-0. 6-1, 7-1 kind of like win streaks, and then a lot of people at 0-6, 0-5, or whatever it might have been. So there was like nobody really in between. There was a lot of win streaks and a lot of loss streaks, and obviously you'd rather be on the win streak side of that.
I hope all of these scrappy players realize that there will be a dude who plays mages, and they will not have an answer for it. They will have to be very careful. Will be understand scrappy,
5 people currently going Scrappies, or currently have a Scrappy alliance completed, and we know that Scrappies are popular, but we did see their weaknesses do get exposed from time to time.
Yeah, there are chinks in their armor that really have to be protected, and the problem is that you can't really protect them very well because again, you can't transition into those defenses very well as a Scrappy player, right? Yes, they're very tanky. Yes, they heal, but when you can't armor against mage damage, and ironically enough, none of their units transition into scaled, and that is the problem. Is that you can't really do that. Ceremonials does actually hit Legion Commander. He has a Bloodbound contract. Technically speaking, he can build into Legion Commander builds.
Oh, this is my favorite. Legion Commander with big time contract. That is an important part to get that Bloodbound bonus going, and just to be a very powerful build early on here. Does just offer the single axe to continue this losing streak, and I have to imagine is going to pick up that Legion Commander post-combat here after taking a loss, continuing the losing streak, and maybe trying to go into a Legion Commander Brute Bloodbound kind of build. I think that's quite strong if they can get it together.
Fresnel, it does actually have 2 Legion Commanders, almost has the 3rd, so we will definitely see some Legion Commander builds coming out here, but of course the Scrappy
also has a 2-star Treant Protector. That's probably through the Druid bonus, but still a 2-star Treant Protector. We've talked many times in the past about how powerful a 2-star Treant Protector is, and with the ease of access to early Druids, now that Shadow Shaman is a Druid and is a 1-cost Druid, this Treant Protector is very powerful in the meta right now, at least in the early game meta.
Chrysalis is offered to Fresno. Probably gonna pick that up. Quite a good item, unless Stonehold Cloak seems his fancy.
Does offer the Stonehold Cloak, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah,
interesting.
I've been liking Stonehold Cloak. It's quite good on Legion Commander if you're gonna rack up a lot of kills. It can be quite good on like a frontliner like Treant, who actually does get a good number of kills himself, especially in the early game. So I'm not surprised to see that. I think it scales very well. Cristellus it's acceptable, but it's nothing
Yeah.
like that's going to win you the game on its own. Whereas like some of the Stone Halls could.
That is actually pretty terrifying. Once he gets a 2-star Treant Protector, there's a likelihood he gets a 3-star Legion Commander due to the fact that again, Legion Commander counts as a Druid and he has a 2-star Legion Commander on the bench right now. So probably gonna put that down.
Oh, definitely.
Next, I'm assuming.
I love me some 2-star Legion Commander. This has got to go in like right away, and just it's going to start racking up kills as soon as Fresno can get up to level 5 here. To put that in, it's going to be so incredibly powerful. Honestly, I might even put it in over like Weaver, just because the Insects bonus is nice, but a 2-star Legion Commander, you just want to start getting those kills for the dual bonus damage as soon as possible.
I don't know about that one. I think I would keep the Insect buff over Legion Commander, but it does depend. It depends on what you really need in the sort of fight. And the Insects, in fact, was quite a good portion of damage. In fact, it was a fifth of the damage output of Fresno. So does
not opt to put that in. So not going to be getting that dual damage quite yet. Going up against one who has a very strong Scrappy build, already a 2-star Clockwork and a 2-star Timbersaw. Will that be good enough? Yeah, and a 1-star Viper and a 2-star Snapfire. So lots of good stuff coming out here out of one, and even this 2-star Treant, that's not going to be enough. They're like not going to kill much of anything. Just one of the Scrappies goes down, and I think this Clockwork is probably going to survive. Oh, nice that
the Leech Shade manages to pull off here.
The Battery Assault just keeping them alive, and unfortunately the Shadow Shaman does go down here at the end, and one does take down Fresnel here, at least initially. On the flip side, we see Ceremonial still kind of on this, well, maybe not a completely open fort strategy, but is on a 6-round losing streak and is dropping pretty low down to 69 life already.
See, this is the problem with open fort, right? You expect to start winning, but when you don't start winning, what do you do now? You're just losing HP. You're just bleeding HP at this point, and that is not good, especially when the whole point of the open fort is you bleed early, so you stop, so you have a better board later. But the fact of the matter is that he's not getting that better board early. He's bleeding out HP at this point. He's not actually
seems like
able
this
to
is
sustain.
This particular round seems to be a round where Ceremonials may be attempting to win. Does have the 2-star Treant Protector, which has potential to win rounds, but unfortunately is going up against one who we just saw easily take down a 2-star Treant Protector from Fresnel. So he's still going to continue losing here by quite a big chunk. He's still taking 6 damage. That is rather substantial at this point, and that's not looking good for this build. I'm very curious to see where Ceremonials transitions from here, like what kind of strategy this goes towards. It looks like they're picking up a good number of Warlocks, but also has some Brutes and some Trolls around as well, so kind of curious to see where this goes, if it's going to be a heavier Warlock build, or if it's going to be Brutes or Druids, or what exactly is going to happen here, because Ceremonials with the open fort really has a lot of options since they had so many rerolls and so many different options.
Yeah. I really hate it when a Legion Commander is stuck at 1-star for like years, and I'm like, he's 2-cost. Where are you?
Speaking of Legion Commander, here we go. We can now cheer for the Legion Commander on from Fresnel here up against Ceremonials, and will this Legion Commander be able to get a dual win against a 3-star Enchantress? It's looking pretty likely here. She's about to cast the duel. Easy win.
Finally gets that.
Nice. Plus 10 damage on Legion Commander.
Yeah, absolutely. Extra 10 damage. Get a scale off of her champion buff as well, so don't forget about that. Bloodbound contract also still available. That's Ceremonials. Well, Fresnel doesn't have a Bloodbound contract available, but he certainly has Legion Commander 2-star available and is looking for that 3-star Treant Protector. Please do not go Scrappies. There's already quite a bit of them. You are gonna lose that fight. You are not gonna dip into that M6. And that is sort of the issue. Also, unfortunately,
this is an interesting spectator bug. This is just constantly flashing the different options here until they pick. I don't know exactly what that was, but in any case, all of our players have now picked their Underlord, and we've got, let's see, 3 players on an Essex, 2 on Hobgen, 4 on Hobgen, and 1 on Jull. King is back. The winner from last game is picking the defensive version of Jull here, who has the healing effect, and meanwhile, there's a preference towards Hobgen, but also some Essex sprinkled in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Ceremonials, in the meantime, fighting Blazed here. Blazed, who went Hovgen as well, is going for that LGC Hovgen. The hyper, well, technically support, but the LGC makes it feel as hyper aggressive as any other Hovgen build. And in fact, will be overrunning Ceremonials here, who went the high damage output in E6.
Yeah, the damage in Essex with the End of Medicine and Enthrall, and in my experience, this has been the worst Underlord option. I thought this one was very lackluster. You know, you kind of have End of Medicine, which can work in certain compositions, but it's not like the best. And Enthrall is like very inconsistent compared to the Golem, which stuns, or compared to like just any of the other Underlords. I feel like this one has been the least impressive to me, so it's very curious to see Ceremonials picking it up here. But of course, I thought Open Fort was unimpressive, and maybe he's going to prove me wrong.
Yeah, well, personally, right, the End of Medicine is counterintuitive to an E6's entire existence. It's that you keep your team alive, but instead it's you increase the damage of your entire team. And also, Enthrall, as you mentioned, is probably the worst ultimate in this game. Not only is it a forced taunt on your entire team, but also it's not really effective unless it kills something. And because it takes quite a bit to come online, the likelihood of you actually getting that off when you're like in the middle of a close fight is fairly low. Speaking of fairly low, actually, Ceremonials will be fighting Fresnel this time. Fresnel, unfortunately, looks like will be feeding off a dual win to the Broodmother. That's going to be very nice. Puts down a Tinker. He actually went through and made a 2-star Tinker.
Interesting. So we do see that Enthrall did work. They did get a copy of a Shadow Shaman there. And I think a bigger part of that fight was actually the item that we picked up, and we hadn't talked about the Tier 3 items, which are now available as soon as round 10, after that hotfix to kind of increase their odds early on, has picked up a Vladimir's Offering. And I think this is one of, if not the strongest Tier 3 item right now. Just provides a very, very strong aura. Lots of damage, lots of survivability, and is just all around a great item. I love this pickup.
Yeah, I love Vlad's. It's my favorite item in this game so far. It's such a good item because it scales depending on your AoE units. In fact, you can put hunters around like a drow with the Vlads, and it feels so strong. I mean, we're gonna see it at work here. Unfortunately, not as effective because none of these units are really hyper carries, except Shadowfiend here, who is already going ham with the Vladimir's Offering. Unfortunately, got broken, so he's not healing from that. Finally heals from it. Unfortunately, he's dead already. Hobby's gonna launch some friendly fires.
Yeah, it's still essentially, like half of a warrior buff, giving 5 armor to your entire team, plus the damage, plus lifesteal. Like, any one of those 3 is a great buff, but to get all 3 of them means there's something for everybody. There's something for your tanks with the bonus armor. There's something for your damage dealers with increased damage output and survivability with lifesteal. And it just does everything. I don't know why you'd ever not pick this. Unless you're maybe like a mage damage build.
Yeah, if you were a mage build, you probably don't want this. But yeah, it feels like Assault Cuirass's younger brother. That's actually...
Essentially, yeah.
Like, yeah, it's effective in all aspects. It's a good idea to have. And Ceremonials finally has that insect buff. Speaking of insect buff, actually, we'll jump to it later. But Ceremonials will be fighting Blazed. In the moment here. Once again, another scrappy composition. A lot of scrappy compositions means that the likelihood of them finishing the build is low, and that is sort of the problem with the scrappy compositions. In fact, the LGC does not do very much work with scrappies because scrappies don't really benefit from extra attack speed. Unfortunately, they will not be able to really secure a win here. Scrappies are not putting a dent at all in this formation of Ceremonials. This is a clean sweep here for Ceremonials. Blaze doing no work.
Exactly. We had so we talked before. Let's take a quick look at the scoreboard. We see 4 players have picked up at least 4 scrappies so far. Leva, 1, Vovenbach, and Blazed are all picking up a good amount of scrappies and are really looking to play, I would say, similar builds, but there's probably going to be some variety, of course, because we highlighted the diversity of scrappies earlier. So they might go for slightly different builds in the end, but same kind of core units. And a big problem there is that everybody else is running what may be considered counters. Some warlocks, some healing, and some more kind of sustained compositions. So it'll have to see if any of these scrappies build can win out in the late game. They do have, most of them have a health advantage right now, but they're looking pretty weak, certainly against Ceremonials here running this druid build right now.
Yeah, I think sustain and one-shot builds are very good against scrappy compositions. And by one-shot builds, I mean Legion Commander, boys. Legion Commander
Oh
is
yeah.
a one-shot unit. He is a monster. I've run her so many times that I've seen the power.
Look at that damage output. Ceremony's just out 19 to King is back. I mean, not like damage output in the fight, but like the player damage. They had a 2-star Lone Druid, which on its own deals 3 damage, and then the Bear deals 2 more. So if Lone Druid plus Bear survive, that's 5 bonus damage to the player. King is back. Our winner from... Oh yeah, now it's guaranteed to be 2-star. Oh no, yes it is guaranteed to be 2-star. Maybe even be 3-star. No, they sold off one of the druids.
No, he sold the Shadow Shaman. That was questionable, but decides to opt in the Shadow Feed instead of the
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Decides that the Treant Protector and the Lone Druid are much more important. Actually puts down the Enchantress, realizing he has extra space. So there will be an extra unit there. He will be fighting Leva, who has been winning dominatingly so far. However, we will see if perhaps the Scrappies will meet their match. There is no Dragon buff for this Inventor Snapfire, so perhaps not being the most effective use of Snapfire yet. The Shadow Shaman at 3-star, trying to do his best, but not the best 3-star in the world. Gonna push forward here. Tinker in the back line, not gonna do it by his lonesome, and Leva looking like he's finally met his match. Unfortunately, not a scrappy team anymore. This is kind of what we talked about, is that scrappies don't work very well when you're fighting like
Treant Protector is just a great counter to Scrappies just because it has very good sustained healing, and the Scrappies are a little bit low damage output, so Treant Protector has plenty of time to heal up everybody, and same with the Vlad's offering, just healing up everybody.
That's pretty nice, actually. Yule Scepter on like someone like Lone Druid or a frontline unit would be solid. I think like Yule Scepter, people are like, oh, it's bad, but it's not horrible. It removes a unit for a solid 5 not solid 5 seconds, but solid 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Ravage, because Ravage is gone from the game, so it's something.
I want to spectate King is back here, our winner from last game, and is at risk of being eliminated at the same round where Ricardo Bot got eliminated last game, on round 16. We'll see if King is back can do better here than a Bot did last game.
You didn't have to bring up Ricardo Bot, man. King is back. Now he literally can't lose this round, or he will be literally Ricardo Bot level. Unfortunately, not looking like the case, however. The shove is coming in. Scrappies. Yes, remember, the problem with Scrappies is the fact that they do so much damage when they explode and when you try and push forward. That is sort of the issue. You need sustain, you need that raw damage, but they don't have that. King is back will lose again. He is surviving. Technically, he's now done better than Ricardo Bot, so he can rest easy.
Yes, has lost the round but did survive, and honestly this build just seems very incomplete to me from King is back, and it's not really surprising, I think, to see them losing these rounds. Has 3 Warlocks, 3 Savages, 3 Brutes. Like, none of these alliances are completed to their like optimal potential, and so that's really where the problem comes in.
Nobody is playing Knights so hard that he's offered 3 Chaos Knights and just rolls out of the 3
Oh, I missed that. Oh, man.
Oh, God, that's so funny. I was like, oh, is he going to pick that up? That's a free 3-star Chaos Knight. Nope. He's like, no. I don't want that. Get out of my game. Kind of a sad state of the Knights, but regardless, King is back. He's also in a sad state, going against Tetado Ursa here. Big Bear, as Zex would say. Legion Commander composition. We're going to see if that sustain will be enough. Sniper gets instantly doomed. Luckily, it's not the Legion Commander, because that is where most of the damage will be once he gets that duel off and gets that demon buff going. Unfortunately, it's not looking like it's going to be enough. We're going to get the duel win, however. Sand King in the backline actually doing quite a bit of damage. Getting that second burst strike off might be enough to pull through a win here. Jewel is actually quite good against Legion Commander because she's melee, and he repulses melee units. The shove forward. King is back, trying to get a win here, but it's just Axe, and Axe is not enough, fortunately. And King is back, may perhaps be eliminated.
I think, just 4 damage. Just 4.
Well, he's not dead yet.
1 HP, that's all you need. That's all you need to turn this around, right? You just need to get... you need to change so much about this comp in order to make this work. Like,
yeah, his competition feels like... I don't know what his competition is trying to do. I really don't.
I mean, it wants to be like 4 Warlocks, 4 Savage, 4 Brutes, but like being at 3 of all of those is just so bad. You should just be cutting something to add in one of the others, right? Cut 1 Warlock to add a Savage, or cut 1 Savage to add a Brute, or something like that to complete this up, and is just opting not to do it.
He sold something to get a 2-star Treant Protector on his bench, which still does not do anything. Unfortunately, he's against Blaze here, who has a full Scrappy build. And again, the problem with fighting Scrappy builds is if you do not have enough damage or enough sustain, you will just collapse inwards because shoving forward against Scrappies is not easy. And we see it here. In fact, he hasn't even killed a single one yet. Finally gets one kill off, but it's too late. In fact, the Scrappies are shoving into them, which is not usually what happens. And unfortunately, looks like King is back. Will be the first one to fall by round 18.
Has been eliminated. So a first place winner from last game who was running mages before is now running a half complete build and unfortunately cannot get the job done and does get eliminated here in 8th place. Meanwhile, Ceremonials, our open fort player from earlier, has just completed a win streak and dealt a big chunk of damage to Vomek. I think it was 19 last round. So
I blame Legion Commander, honestly. It's he actually only has 10 dual damage, so no, it's not Legion Commander.
No, it's not Legion Commander. It's just winning off the back of the Druids, just off a 2-star lone Druid with I think Vladimir's offerings doing very good work. I think Shadow Fiend is very strong right now. So it's Treant Protector and Insect bonus as well. So let's keep on watching Ceremonious, who seems to be one of the most powerful players on the board right at this moment, and is running the damage dealing in Essex, which I know we had kind of not been too impressed with in the past, but maybe this is making it work.
Perhaps the damage output is actually helping not Venomancer, but the Shadow Fiend, especially alongside the Vladimir's offering, keeping that sustain going. And we're seeing quite a bit of damage Shadow Fiend is doing just from physical right-click alone, not just from the Requiem. The End of Medicine, again, amplifying the damage they do, but we jinxed him a little bit because he finally takes a loss unless this Weaver is a god. It might be a god, actually,
it is a god. Oh, no, it got assassinated.
Cypher, pest control.
I have seen Weaver like 1v3. I think I had a game the other day where I had a 2-star Weaver with the Scrappy bonus on it. And it was against like a half-health Treant Protector and then a full-health Jull and a full-health Broodmother. And I won because he was just so evasive, and I got really lucky with the insect procs to make them miss their attacks, and that Weaver just like kept on surviving and like 1v3'd. It was quite impressive to see. So I was not going to bet against that Weaver there.
It's so entertaining to watch high evasive units on the board because they feel like real players playing these units, and it feels so exciting to watch them dodge everything. Speaking of dodge everything, Leva has gone from top HP to middle packed, or rather still top, but
still top, but it's close. It's a lot closer, yeah.
The gap has definitely been closed. Is still running that Scrappy and gets a free win on that Legion Commander. Legion Commander, speaking of which, on Ceremonious, he's getting quite strong. Already 30 damage in. Scrappy's trying to do as much damage as they can, but remember, their damage source comes from the fact that they really do a lot over time, and they do secure that win as Ceremonious is unable to sustain enough. Does not really have any damage, or rather attack speed bonuses for Legion Commander. I would expect a Hunter buff or a Troll buff.
Yeah, I think we may have a Caster Cursed here. Whoa, does pick up with the
second blood.
Does opt for the Diffusal Blade, which is a reasonable option on Legion Commander, kind of as she's single target down individual things, is just going to completely burn their mana and make them completely useless. So a new item that I haven't seen too terribly much of, but it does sound pretty strong on paper. I do want to hop over to Vovin back here, who's been taking some hits recently and is one of our the players running 6 Scrappies, but is really feeling the heat of the contest here because they only just now got a 2-star Tinker and is not even really close to 3-star on anything in this build.
Unfortunately, we'll be fighting Ceremonious here with a very strong composition. Remember, it is all about sustain versus damage output. We will see if Ceremonious is able to do that damage output against these Scrappies. You'll Scepter up in the air for the Timbersaw, the back line. The Bounty Hunter trying to do his best. In fact, Sakuchi Weaver is going to try and do some damage here, but the front line, don't forget about the Legion Commander cleaning up the crew here, doing so much damage, forcing the Demon buff already expired, and he does not decide on who to kill. Finally gets that E6 kill off, and look at this. The Butterfly is not really helping with the Gyrocopter. He's doing as much damage as he can. In fact, he does the most damage, but it's still not enough. The Weaver perhaps may be able to 1v5 by the Shadow Fiend away. Get him out of here. Fresno, at the same time, the other Legion Commander build, in fact, he went off from the Legion Commander build, opted into the Snapfire composition with the Druids. Did not work out, and this is what I meant by don't go Tinker. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an odd build out of Fresno, running a little bit of a mishmash of things there. And Vomac, unfortunately, also meeting the same fate here, down in 6th place, getting eliminated. It does have the 6 scrappies, but just not enough damage output to punch through. Ceremonial's 4 Druid composition just had too much healing, not enough real damage output, partially in part due to the idea that there's so many people on scrappies that it's been hard to find upgrades for that. Could not find anything to 3-star.
Yeah, this is the first time we've actually seen a scrappy on scrappy action here. We will see. In terms of a mirror matchup like this, it's all about who does the most damage the fastest, or who gets the first explosions off, or just as many volleys as possible, as it does occur in chain reaction. It looks like one will be able to do the most damage overall here, unfortunately.
Yeah, the big mirror breaker here is that Dragon Knight. That Dragon Knight 2-star has been a big damage source. Let's check the damage here for that Dragon Knight. I'm sure it's massive. Yeah, 6,200 damage for the Dragon Knight, whereas the highest damage dealer for Blazed was only Hobgen at 3,400. So very clearly the 2-star Dragon Knight and Snapfire winning out over the Insect build. And we had kind of talked earlier about the diversity in Scrappy builds, and so we see the Blazed here is running for like a Scrappy Inventor, and then pairing with Insects as kind of the damage source, just the sustain, trying to deal the damage with Insects and Inventor bonus, whereas, who is that?
One is playing Hunters as well with his composition, along with the Dragon.
Oh, wow, yeah, that is a lot more damage output. The Dragon option obviously adds a lot of damage, but one throwing in the Dragons and Hunters as well. We talked about how Hunters are so easy to splash because you already have Weaver and Sniper for your Scrappies, that adding an extra one in is pretty trivial as well. Blaze is now fighting for his life here up against Leva, who is also running a Dragon version of the Scrappy build. So I gotta favor Leva here just a little bit. That Dragon Knight is doing tons of damage, and I just don't think Blazed is going to have quite enough. Big Nessex Golem comes down on the backline, stuns up one of the snipers, and the sniper does get the Assassinate off, but the rest of the board is collapsing, and this double 2-star Tinker from Leva is going to clean up here, and that should be it for Blazed.
Unfortunately for Blazed, unable to find a good solid footing for his scrappy composition, and we are down to 2 Warlocks versus 2 scrappy composition, and you gotta wonder which.
I'm voting for the Warlocks. I think the Warlocks are stronger. I think that in a straight up matchup, the Warlocks are the counter to scrappy builds. I will say that both of these scrappy builds are running a bit more damage output than the scrappy builds that we saw kind of fall off earlier. The scrappy builds that were opting for Insects or no damage synergy in the case of Vovenbach there, I think those are definitely the easier pickings for the Warlocks. And I guess none of these players are actually running 4 Warlocks yet. They have 3 Warlocks or just 2 Warlocks, opting to optimize the Legion Commander here. And I'm going to still vote for my Legion Commander. Unfortunately, they are playing each other here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we will see. There is a 3-star Legion Commander. In fact, the opposing Legion Commander gives him a free duel win. That was probably the worst play ever by Tetado's Legion Commander here. Hasn't even dueled yet, the opposing 3-star Legion Commander. Still hasn't dueled. He's been silenced the entire time. He's still not dueled. Oh, he's finally did duel.
It was the 3-star Legion Commander did duel. That's kind of funny. I've with the uptick of popularity of Legion Commander, I've seen Legion Commanders fight each other, and it's always hard to tell who just dueled there because they both get silenced, they're both fighting. And so obviously you hope it's your opponent duels, and then you win it, and then you can naturally duel and double dip there, but that was not the case here. Still seems like the 3-star Legion Commander build was a little bit stronger, and Ceremonials, with that open fort initially is doing quite well. And also do remember, Tatado was the other one on the open fort initially, and I do like where they've gotten themselves with both of their builds. Obviously, Ceremonials taking the win there, but if we take a look at Tatado's board over here, is a very similar story. Does have 1 additional Warlock, but overall is running a roughly similar composition, and I think both of these match up well against Scrappies.
Going against Leva here, again, the good thing about this Warlock composition is the fact it's running Legion Commander. Legion Commander does a lot of damage just by her lonesome. Look at that Demon buff doing so much damage, 600 damage per hit, but it's not looking like it's going to be enough here unless the Dragons are not going to do damage here. Dragon Knight trying to do his best, but gonna fall. Even with that Butterfly, it's not going to be enough. Leva looking like a meal here as he gets cleaned up by all of these units for the side of Tetado. Big Bear deals 20 damage to Leva. Ceremonials actually losing to 1. Perhaps 1 transitioning out into the Hunters is actually helping him turn the tides of war.
Definitely, you need to be able to diversify yourself a little bit in these builds. Just like I said, if so many people are going for scrappies, what is going to make you different? Why? Like if you just go for the exact same build as everybody else, you're just basically doing a coin flip. Oh, I hope that I'm going to get more scrappies than you are, or more of the exact same units that you are. And by kind of branching out here into a variety of different damage sources, getting it from insects and from hunters and from dragons, and even getting warlocks and adventures. This is just like a really well complete build. Just getting every single thing. Normally you say, okay, you pick 2 or 3 of these things. Instead, they're just getting all of them here at level 10.
Yeah, one takes all of the above for the scrappy high DPS composition versus Leva, who is doubling down on this Dragon Knight, having in fact 2 of them to try and offset this damage. Remember, mirror matches rely on having more damage than the other. In fact, the Snapfire in the backline is uncontested, gets that Mortimer's Kisses off, but maybe perhaps too much sustain on the side of Leva here, as a lot of units are still alive for him. Actually, the Dragon Knight still alive, might fall here very soon, but it's quite close. The Breathe Fire is not going to be enough here for the side of one, and will be a win for, will be a win for Leva.
So very close there.
Bear loses to Ceremonials again.
So very close there in that fight. The double Dragon Knight obviously dealing the most damage for Leva on that fight. One of them dealt quite a bit more. I think they both had really strong items. If we look over at Leva's board, one has a Moon Shard and one has a Butterfly. So both very strong damage output items. And those were just able to do that splash damage and just had a bit more sustained damage output than one had from his 1-star units, like the 1-star Medusa, which just was not quite as efficient as it could have been. Here we see Leva going up against Tatato here, who is running the Legion Commander build. The Legion Commander has 125 bonus damage, so we'll see if they're able to take down a win. Is probably going to be like one-shotting things if they can not get evaded. Evaded a couple attacks there from the duel, so Legion Commander gets taken out, and it's not going to be quite enough. That big Golem comes in on the backline, stunning up most of Tatato's backline, but doesn't really matter as this Dragon Knight is not quite putting out quite as much as he needs to, as the healing is going to come through from Tatato. Or is it? The Dragon Knight is still up. The Dragon Knight can't die. Just can't die.
The Dragon Knight still up. Requiem is going to heal up everything, though, and Assassinate comes through at the end just to say, no, stop that. That's enough. As Leva will take that loss. Ceremonials also takes that loss against one. One seeming like he's doing enough damage to outmatch these Legion Commanders, and that's an interesting idea there, is that one has said, I'm running scrappies, yes, but I've decided to opt into that damage, opt into that raw power as well. And that is what's winning him these rounds. Very
close fights here. I thought that the Warlock kind of focus builds would have a little bit of an edge, but we do see both scrappy players having very strong builds with lots of upgrades. And both of the, what I would call Warlock, in air quotes, are only running 3 Warlocks each, and that is not going to be quite enough.
We will see against Scrappies, against this Medusa. It will be dangerous. Assassin going to come through, actually immediately eliminates the Medusa. Perhaps that will be the key to this fight, and it looks like it will be. The duel comes out on the Dragon Knight, but the heal so much on the Legion Commander. Legion Commander is getting focused down finally because of the low HP, but the friendly fire going to get traded here. Call down also going to connect to the Lone Druid at 3-star. Does a lot of damage just from auto-attacking, and that Taker is not going to do anything by himself, as one will take 14 damage to the face. In the meantime, Leva versus Ceremonials ends in quite a close battle here, a slugfest to be exact. It's just Dragon Knight versus a Nisix, and we all know the story. Dragon Knight is going to take this way.
Yeah, the Dragon Knights are doing extremely good for both Leva and One here. Both of them they seem to be the central points of these compositions, and that's one of the big things that some of our lower placed scrappy players did not have. They did not get the Dragon bonus online. There was so much contest for Dragon Knight. It is one of the most popular units right now. We actually see 4 2-stars out across all of the players on the board here, and that just speaks to its it just speaks to its flexibility and its strength. And you know, this is going to come right down to the wire. I could see any one of these 4 players winning and any one of the 4 going out in last place. It's really hard to predict at this point.
It will be Leva versus Big Bear. Leva, again, with the raw damage, is lacking in that department, but does have 2 Dragon Knights with the splash damage. We'll see if that will be enough. The Clockwork will finally fall, but the pipe actually going to prevent a little bit of that damage coming through. Assassin Spray definitely going to help here, as well as the Mechanism, trying to get that sustain up, but the LGC going to land, but the Assassin are going to get traded here. The Lone Druid on the right-hand side, not a strong enough bear, it seems, as the Lone Druid is distracted by the Ancient Golem, and the 2 Dragon Knights are still alive. It's only the Shadow Fiend left. One is eliminated by Ceremonials in the meantime, as Assassin going to fly
23.
through. And Leva will eliminate Big Bear as he takes 14 damage, and Ceremonials did beat 1 with 23 damage, which means Leva gotta be sweating bullets. This is the fight.
Absolutely wow. I wish we had seen the Ceremonials fight. 23 damage is so intense. I did not think 1 would get eliminated that turn. I think 1 had, what, 21 HP going into that round or something?
Yes, he got
my goodness. That was like, well, they're pretty comfortable, but no, they just dropped down and forth. That is absolutely disastrous there, but now we're going to have a really close one. We do see Leva gets a 2-star Gyrocopter, opts to swap out one of the Dragon Knights in order to get that important Deadeye bonus and Ace of Deadeye effect, but will it be enough here against a very powerful Legion Commander comp from Ceremonials?
We will absolutely see. Dragon Knight and Legion Commander are the key stories of this game. A 3-star Lone Druid in the backline, of course, going to be helpful. The duel going to come through on the Gyrocopter, not going to force that cooldown off. If he picks him off before the cooldown, that will be devastating, but no, it does not. The cooldown does land, but only on the backline. The push forward from Leva perhaps is enough here. No, Ceremonials trying to do some damage. The Legion Commander stayed alive for so long, but the Legion Commander is going to finally go down. The Bear is still alive, actually killing through the backline. The Tinker is still there. The Lone Druid 1v1ing the Golem. It's up to the Lone Druid now with the insects, with this Tinker. Will the Tinker and the Weaver be able to do this? The missile's gonna go through, but it does no damage. It's just up to the Scrappies now. It's just Weaver. It's just Weaver versus Lone Druid, and it's gonna be a Scrappy.
It's gonna be Lone Druid.
Lose this, and he barely survives. As Lone Druid had a Vladimir's Offering.
Vladimir's Offering MVP there with that extra bonus lifesteal to the Lone Druid. It's such a good unit to put it on because Lone Druid's often going to be just behind your front line, meaning he's often going to be in range of everybody, and he's really tanky, so he's always going to survive. And now you get a big option of a Satanic. So who does this go on here? Looks like
Satanic Legion Commander, and then Satanic Gyrocopter, I believe.
Oh, yeah. That would make a lot of sense. The Legion Commander, as soon as she drops in health total, is going to heal right back up to full health with that massive amount of bonus lifesteal. And it does... The other one goes on a Gyrocopter, which is kind of interesting. The Gyrocopter previously had the Butterfly, and that Butterfly actually saved the Gyrocopter from the Legion Commander duel, because during the duel she had a couple attacks that were evaded, so that was not quite optimal there, but we'll see if these are changes enough to make this a more one-sided affair, or if we're going to get another nail-biter right down to the last second.
Ceremonials with a rainbow composition versus the Scrappies. We will see definitely who will do the most damage. The Burrow Strike going to land on so many units. The Dragon Knight actually going to get stunned up here. Going to get dueled up and will be eliminated here. No, he is not. The Viper in the backline as well, assisting the Legion Commander. Going to finally get that kill on the Dragon Knight. The push forward actually, it's not looking close at all for Ceremonials. Look at this obliteration. All of the units are still alive for Ceremonials, and the cleanup is just there. It's just too strong. The Satanic, everything, all of the damage is just raw and out there. The Satanic is not going to work because you're rooted. You can't even use it, and he's gonna go down. Leva takes 20 damage at the end there, as that one item and the better positioning, I feel like, won that fight for Ceremonials.
Absolutely, the Legion Commander was just far too tanky there, just never went down in that last fight, and Ceremonials does take down the win here after starting with the open fort. So I know we were kind of questioning it in between the rounds, is this open fort a good strategy? Is it strong enough? You're giving up a lot of your early game, and Ceremonials did this 2 games in a row now. He got a 3rd place and then a 1st place, and this composition was just very, very impressive. It was beating players by huge chunks of damage at all points in the game once you stopped the losing streak initially. And I'm very impressed with this game out of Ceremonials, going up against a lot of players on Scrappies and just absolutely carving through all of them.
Yeah, the thing is that Legion Commander builds, please don't steal them. I use them in my pubs. Don't steal them. It's not good, I swear. Oh god. But yeah, my god, that was a lot.
I have always been a big advocate of the Legion Commander. I've been always preaching the Legion Commander gospel, and I personally am really happy to see these start to show up in a couple times per game. It's not a dominating strategy. It's not every single player running it. But when they do, and when it all comes together, it can be very successful, as we saw here with Ceremonials. hopefully, maybe some of these players will learn their lesson, and maybe if there's 4 players going scrappy, some of them gotta transition off, because I think Blaze and Vovin back here definitely suffered from the fact that there's so much competition for them, and so maybe they'll realize that if there's 4 other people going scrappies, maybe you don't want to do it, and we'll see what other kind of new builds. Obviously, things like Knights were not played at all. Neither were Mages in this lobby. So we still have 2 more rounds to go, though. So there's still lots of opportunity for some awesome new builds and more great Underlords coming up ahead. We're going to take a little short break here. Hopefully we'll get back into the next round as soon as possible, but don't go anywhere. And we'll be right back with round 3 of the Underlords Pro Season 4 Grand Finals. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to round 3 of the Underlords Pro Season 4 Grand Finals. I'm your host, TinMan354, here joined by the picture of Blue Sapphire. And so we'll be getting into round 3 here shortly. We're down to our top 16 players, so there's 32 total players initially invited. And we'll just be down to the final 2 lobbies here, so we'll be cutting down to progressively smaller amounts of players as we weed out the weak. Just kidding. All of the players here, all the players here in this tournament are the best of the best. So we'll be seeing just some really high quality Underlords gameplay here coming up soon when we get these players in. I personally am really excited to see a little bit less scrappies because I don't think they really performed up to their billing in that previous game, so we'll see if the players make some adjustments and give us some more variety in this upcoming round.
Yeah, scrappies only become much more consistent once they are uncontested, right? They're the type of they're of an old generation where 3-starring is the way you win with them, and that is really the key, right? Like 2-starring them, nice, right? It's awesome, sweet. You can win mid-game rounds with that, but going into the late game with only 2-star scrappies doesn't feel very very efficient.
Yeah.
Right, and we saw it in the previous match. He got obliterated in the last round against that Legion Commander composition.
Right, because there's no 3-stars on the scrappy side, and even then, if you don't get 3-star like Tinker or 3-star Clockwork, you really are going to rely on getting something like 2-star Dragon Knight to carry you, or 2-star Gyrocopter, which are not trivial to get up to 2-star, especially with a lot of other people going for the same kind of units. So we'll have to see if it's a little bit less contested, if there's only 1 or 2 people on scrappies, I think they'll do very well. But otherwise, if there's going to be 3 or 4 people on them, I'm looking for something else to win the game. We haven't seen it win a game yet. We've definitely seen the mages really take advantage of the scrappy, and then a Legion Commander / Warlock composition really take advantage of them in this last game. So we should definitely, I hope to see more of that, or hope to see something else come in and really shake up the meta. Maybe like Knights or or Assassins, perhaps.
I don't know about Assassins, but I am excited to see eventually. Maybe perhaps we'll see a Pocket Spirit strat, right? If someone finds that right, this is the game. I got Sword Spirit and Ember Spirit in the same pile. Let's go. Let's find Earth Spirit. Let's go for the Spirit strat. That is a potential Pocket strat, and I don't think that's anything to scoff at, especially since you can pair that with Brutes, right, as your front line. You can pair that with Warlocks. I think Warlocks with those spirits are actually super efficient, just because you keep them alive, right? Because apparently Delta Slam doesn't work if you die. And personally, I feel like that's a bit of an oversight, because that kind of really makes it harder to run spirits. But I guess it's
just don't die. You know, they
just don't die.
Just don't die for it. Like clearly, that is the optimal strategy. Is if you just keep all of your units alive and kill all of the opposing units, you'll win every fight.
Exactly.
But I get what you're saying. You know, memes aside, that the inconsistency of spirits sometimes can feel like, oh, this spirit just died, and then it
falls apart.
It falls apart because then nothing happens if one of your spirits gets silenced or gets CC'd or gets killed really quick, and then your whole strategy falls apart. That's definitely feels bad to lose that way.
Yeah, again, just sustain, and the fact that not all of their abilities go off at the same time as well, right? Earth Spirit's cooldown is different from Ember Spirits, is different from Sword Spirits, different from Void Spirit, and that is the problem. And obviously that's how you balance it, because obviously if they were all lower cooldowns like Sword Spirit, obviously they just obliterate everything in their path, which is not fun for anyone. So it's obviously about, I guess, understanding who should take the most damage, who should what you should pair with it to keep them alive and such. But again, I feel as though it should work even when they're dead. But again, that's just me. That's just sort of my idea for it. Yeah.
Well, just put a Helm of the Undying on them. Wait, never mind.
Wait, that's awkward.
yeah. There's some inconsistency with the spirits, but I think the way you play around that is you run 4 or 5 or 6 spirits. You know, you just run as many spirits as you can shove in there, and just because the Delta Slam doesn't care if it's a 1-star spirit or a 3-star spirit, it's dealing the exact same amount. So running a whole bunch of 1-star spirits can be a good strategy, assuming they get time to actually cast and don't get burst down in the meantime.
I have seen players run 2 2-star Sword Spirits and 1 1-star Sword Spirit, and that will consistently drop Delta Slams as long as the 1-star Sword Spirit doesn't die. And that's the biggest issue there. If that dies, your combos falls apart. But when they don't die, you will get Delta Slams off, and they do devastating amounts of damage. And that is sort of the sort of how that works. And it's a lot of damage. It's not like that's a lot of damage. That's 600 plus above on the top of debuffs, and that is
Plus, if you have a mage bonus, that gets bonused even more because it's
exactly.
the 600 magic damage.
Yeah, it's absolutely devastating. Another alliance, I think. I'm a little bit biased here in terms of not liking them so much, but Knight, right? You mentioned that Knights are pretty good in the upper brackets. I personally, because again, it still feels as though I need all of 6 to succeed, and unlike Scrappies, I can't be like 4 Knights plus Hunters, because that feels too weak in my opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't feel like they would be cohesive, and a lot of that results on the fact that the Knights themselves don't feel so strong, just because
I feel that.
a lot of them are melee, and
Yeah,
with the removal of Luna as well, it's just so
it does feel like
devastating.
they don't have quite as much early game presence, as some of the other builds can just get a lot of their powerful units online. Like, there's nothing in Knights that really feels like it compares to like a 2-star Treant Protector right away, or a 2-star Timbersar, Clockwork, or Tinker. Some of the scrappy core units right off the bat. And I mean, Chaos Knight kind of does it, but like Abaddon, Omni Knight, and those ones, not quite as impactful, it doesn't feel. And so I think that they have the potential. If they can get ahead and get kind of ahead of the curve, in a lot of cases, they can be good. But we'll have to see if that comes to fruition here. Looks like we do have all 8 players ready to go in our round 3 here in Lobby A. So let's get things started up here and see what's going to be going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we might see some pocket strats. We might just see some scrappies. I mean, if it ain't broke, fix. I mean, that technically speaking, it was broke because it didn't win last time. But second place, I guess people are satisfied with that. But consistent second place is probably not as good as 2 first places. Maybe, I know. Who knows?
Yeah.
The math succeeds me.
I would say let's follow Ceremonials, our winner from last game. But then I remembered that we're going to be staring at an empty board for a little while. So
yeah,
let's pick somebody who is opting out of that. Let's go with Momo Ring. Momo Ring here with the Legion Commander. I love me some Legion Commander. I love seeing it as soon as turn 1. And maybe, just maybe, that Legion Commander can get a dual win right off the bat.
Does he actually get benefits from his own alliance? Because she
Sure
just
does.
got 3 bonus damage. Really?
Sure does. It says any alliance will count, including itself.
Okay, that is nice. That is very nice. So yeah, just unfortunately, your commander's not gonna win this, but obviously, just damage control at this point. Takes 2 damage, it's whatever. Tatado and Ceremonials, obviously, they actually got what they want this time and got their first round loss, so perhaps they'll be able to.
Well, Tatado wised up and put in a single Timbersaw, a single 1 unit that's going to lose against anything else. But if it did get paired up against Ceremonials, the other open fort player would at least take a win, and so it wouldn't be quite as disastrous. You'd still get that 1 gold out of the deal, but would still lose against everybody else.
Yeah, I think open fort is fine, but when you realize when there's more than one player going open fort, yeah, this is the right way to play. Because when you fight Ceremonials, you're like, psych, you get your lose streak, but I get free money, and that's pretty good trade deal. So, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, early game we see a lot of savages, but of course it's too early to tell. An important thing to note, though, is a Bloodbound contract on Savants. And you might see some Legion Commanders in that build. If you find the Legion Commander, put that with the Demons, suddenly that's a monster.
Yeah, first set of items here most of them are, immediately impactful on your combat. Big Time Contract is not here, so Zavaz is definitely going to be playing kind of at a disadvantage. Whereas the opponent here has Gloves of Haste, probably not the best item here on a 1-star Enchantress, but still it's an item as opposed to Big Time Contract, which does exactly nothing here. Looks like Blaze is going to get the better end of this trade and take down Zavaz here with the Druid Alliance and the 2-star Shadow Shaman.
Ceremonials are still running this open fort strategy. Tatado, of course, as we mentioned, running that the Timbersaw is now 2-star, which is nice, much better. Probably might get a kill sometime.
Yeah.
But the concern is that he is running Scrappy. So okay, so our first Scrappy player of the board.
Looks like it's actually the only Scrappy player on the board. I mean, it's very early, so it's hard to say for sure. But we do see just one player looking maybe 2, Ceremonials and Tatato both looking at Scrappies, but then 1 and Momoring both looking at Assassins, actually. So that's going to be pretty curious to see how that goes out. Let's take a look at Momoring here with a 2-star Queen of Pain already. We were talking earlier about Assassins, that the big carries, I think, after the removal of Templar and Phantom Assassin are going to be the AoE Assassins, the Queen of Pain and the Ember Spirit in particular. And already getting the 2-star Queen of Pain can really carry these early fights. Not going to be good enough here against Leva and the Leva's Brutes, who are just kind of the hard counter against Assassins. But even so, you got to feel like Momoring is feeling like they're in a good spot at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, doesn't have the Ember Spirit yet. And speaking of which, one does have the Ember Spirit. So looking for that. And the thing with Assassins is that you can actually transition quite easily into Spirits. Especially if you have a crit on your Ember Spirit, you would love to have that invulnerability time on him. Because again, jumping in as Assassins means that you're going to get focused down if the rest of your team is already dead. And the thing with Delta Slam is the fact that you buy time. Ceremonials will be facing Momoring Sears. That's actually quite a lot of damage, considering 5. It's not that much, actually. Surprised that it did less than I thought. But regardless, back to what I was saying. Essentially, if you have the Ember Spirit jump in, Sleight of Fist, and then Delta Slam happens, you buy yourself time so that the Sleight of Fist comes off cooldown, and you get that second one off much easier, because then you don't take damage. Then you have more time, and overall, I think that's the key to really a lot of this, is that a Delta Slam, in fact, helps Swordsman as well, because it literally comes off cooldown once Delta Slam finishes. So it's a win-win for quite a few of these spirits, and we'll see if he'll try to go into that. I doubt it, probably into sex or something, but
yeah,
especially
it's especially valuable for Ember Spirit because he has such low attack speed. 0.67 is some of the lowest attack speed, which means you have lower mana gain because you're not attacking quite as fast. And therefore, he really benefits from that extra time to be a little bit safer and doesn't need to risk not gaining that mana or getting burst down before he gets his mana or the cooldown back up. We do see one here is going to drop against Momoring, the 2 assassin builds going at it, and Momoring gets the better end of that trade. And meanwhile, we've got a couple players up on win streaks. We've got Blazed and Tatato here, both looking at win streaks. Let's take a look at Blaze Comp, who is still at 100% life and doing very well for himself here.
Has an early game strategy, as sort of expected in it. Gets a Chrysalis as well, so we're going to be super excited about Bounty Hunter. Of course, it's a sort of a pseudo-assassin. It's a weaker than assassin buff, but it's a pseudo-assassin buff.
But still, it's really good on Bounty Hunter, who has a high attack speed, so it gets more uses out of that attack damage. And then, of course, the crit chance. The Bounty Hunter has some of the highest damage on the board right now in terms of just raw attack damage, so even better to crit with.
I was sad. I was like, there was an Ember Spirit in his shop, but didn't go for it. Didn't go Spirits.
No, well, we do see 2 other players going, Momoring and 1, both really looking very heavily at Assassins. Both of them still have the 3 Assassin buff and are looking that way, picking up lots of extra Assassins on their bench and whatnot. So we may get our wish here with 2 Assassin players up from 0 on previous games.
Well, Wound is actually very good against Scrappy because that does remove the health buff. But the problem is the fact that there are physical damage too, so the armor buff is still very, very efficient for the side of Scrappy players. And also, point-blank explosions are not the greatest thing in the world, especially for the likes of Ember Spirit, who is not very HP-oriented.
Right, but it does bring up a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors, right? Where, maybe Assassins are a little bit evenly strength against Scrappies, like it could go either way. But Assassins are very good against the heavier Warlock builds that we've been seeing. The Warlock builds are all about that healing and that sustain, and Assassins just demolish that. So if a 6 Assassin build can kill the Warlocks can kill the Scrappies, and the Assassins are even against Scrappies, then what beats the Warlocks? What beats the Assassins? Well, it's typically going to be the Brute builds. But Brute builds have been falling out of favor because Brute builds lose to Scrappy. And it just makes this interesting metagame cycle of who goes for what and the different matchups. And I think it's very interesting. And, in the right timing, if you pick the right build in the right match, you can easily run away with it if you can correctly read what everyone else is going for.
You know how to break that cycle. You play Knights. Exactly. Knights, it's time.
I feel like I don't know it. I don't know enough about Knights to really comment on their matchup and where they fit into this rock, paper, scissors dynamic, but it's possible they have very different kind of matchups, so yeah, I wouldn't rule it out, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Again, compositions are slowly rising. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Legion Commander. In fact, There are two Stonehold Pikes here. It would be very amazing if someone ran a Bloodseeker and had a Stonehold Pike as well, because I feel like, again, Bloodseeker with a Stonehold Pike, especially if you're winning, just wins harder. And fortunately, it's not the case, but Stonehold Pike is still very effective, especially if you have like a Legion Commander eventually. Put that on her. That's just extra amplified damage, and that's nothing to laugh at.
So Blazed here going for the trying to complete a win streak, and has just completed the 4 Brute bonus, and gets one of the best matchups for them against an Assassin build. But the Assassins are giving them a run for the money here. These Assassins are not going down so easily, even against 4
The insects
Brutes.
providing that mischance. Yeah, exactly. The insects providing a mischance, definitely helping here. A lot of evasion for the side of the Assassins will stop Blaze from finishing the win streak.
Wow.
And that's always the worst kind of feeling.
I was definitely going to say, yeah, Blaze is definitely going to complete this win streak. 4 Brutes against an Assassin build, like, come on, that's going to be a slam dunk for the Brutes. But no, actually, the Assassin build also had a Scrappy, had the Alchemist, had the Insects, and both of those just combined to be a little bit too much for Blaze to handle there. So Tatato is the last one, still on a win streak. Not quite as big, not really going for completing that here, but is also running 2 Insects, 2 Scrappies, 2 Dragons, just a little bit of everything here.
I'm actually extremely shook there are no mages in the game. Well, you kind of expect in a game where everyone's so squishy, you would pick the ones that would obliterate anything that's squishy, but no, nobody's playing mages. And personally, I mean, we talked about this, but mages beat Scrappies as well, so it's kind of funny how good Scrappies are and how versatile they are, but also how many things counter their ass. So it's like,
yeah,
it's
it's kind of interesting, you know, that there are popular builds that can counter the Scrappies, yet still they tend to show up in almost every game. Yeah, looking around, we see actually 3 people have dipped into Assassin builds at this point. Zvaz, I wish I could. Zvaz, and Momoring all have 3 Assassins online already.
Ceremonial still has yet to pick it. Finally picks up Barrels of Fun here. It looks like we have quite the opposite scenario as last game. 4 E6, 3 Jewel, 1 Hobgin.
That's like exactly opposite of last game, where we had 1 in Essex, or we had like 2 in Essex, 1 Joel, and 4 Hobgin, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. We had 4 Hobgins, 3 in E6, 1 Jewel. So now we have the other way around with an E6 at the top. And are we saying it's gonna be 4 Jewel next round? Who knows? We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. I actually love this sort of disparity, because that means that there are some builds that people just don't appreciate more than others, right? I mean, in fact, 3 of these in E6 have gone Golem, so perhaps no Hobgin pickup or no Jewel pickup that they really prefer, and decided to go an E6. And same with perhaps the Hobgin people who play Hobgin. They're like, oh, I didn't see LGC Hobgin.
I'll say one thing. 7 of the 8 players have picked up the support version of their Underlord, and only Momoring is opting for the offensive Anessex. And we did see, I believe it was actually last game with Ceremonials, who won the game, was running offensive Anessex, who we had kind of pegged as one of the weaker options. At least I had thought so before this tournament, but we'll see if Momoring is able to go on a run here with offensive and Essex, that this, you know, maybe this is stronger than I give it credit for, although I think a lot of players are still opting towards the more support-oriented Underlords. They seem to be just a bit more powerful, maybe in abstract, or maybe just in the current meta, with the current meta being a lot about defensive synergies like Scrappy or Warlocks or Druids. So we see Leva still here going on a win streak, a small win streak, but no one else has that. Still is running a 2 Scrappy build. Is up against Ceremonials here. I think we may have lost Blue Sapphire. You still here? Sorry, some technical difficulties. In any case, we'll work through those. It wouldn't be a good cast without some good technical difficulties. In any case, we've got Leva running. Actually, I caster curse them immediately, and they lose their win streak. And now the whole top half of the table is really pretty well evened out. No one is above 90 HP.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, Blue Sapphire's back. He's alive.
Yeah,
Good.
Back. My internet died for a second, but it's okay. I have
Fair
a
enough.
second backup. It's okay.
I was.
Regardless, yeah.
It's all good. I was concerned that I had died and the whole stream was over, and we're good. We're good though.
We're good. We're all good. Yeah. It was me.
All right.
Well, yeah.
No problem.
Anyways, right. As mentioned, there's quite a few different underlords and such. What were you just discussing there? Because that was quite.
Oh well, all the different underlords.
Right.
What I was pointing out was that 7 of our 8 players have opted for the support version of their underlords. Only Momo Ring is opting for offensive and Essex, and everybody else is like the support or the healing version. And I wondered if that was, due to the fact that maybe the support versions are just a little too strong right now, or if perhaps they just fit better into the meta of everyone running defensive synergies like Scrappy or Warlocks or Brutes, and therefore the support ones just are a little bit better than the offensive-minded ones, which maybe are better with the offensive strategies like Assassins or Hunters, which are not quite as prevalent in the meta.
Well, Kennen is actually running a happy hour Jewel, so perhaps is that also aggressive? I'm trying to remember. So
no, this is Righteous Healing, so that is the healing Joel. Or I guess sorry, the Barrels of Fun. Never mind, I'm wrong. The Barrels of Fun are the offensive Joel. Sorry, just so never mind. There's a bit more of an even split than I had thought. Sorry,
yeah,
I guess I just associate Joel like all of his modes are kind of defensive, which is kind of true as a tank. But no, that's incorrect. But in terms of the Nesix and Hobgin, it seems to be there's definitely a preference towards the support versions of those. Yes.
I think that's mainly because of the nerf to friendly fire, and although Explosivo double damage is quite a lot of damage, friendly fire lost half of its damage output, and it's is the problem. It's the fact that not only is it now arguably worse than cooldown because you only get two hits off usually on on the same unit. It's also inconsistent. It's not like you can choose where it lands. It just lands where it pleases, and that's sort of the issue with it. That it not only is it lower damage, it's also unreliable in terms of how much damage it will really do in a fight. And speaking of how much damage it will do in a fight, we are seeing right now this just raw damage output out from Kennen here. Actually,
look at that Viper damage. Viper damage output is so strong. Both all of his abilities here: Nether Toxin, Auto Attack, and of course Orb of Venom. Just a great thematic item on Viper. More toxins everywhere. Just dealing so much damage, like head and shoulders above the rest of the team here. I think Viper is honestly one of the strongest units in the game right now. That I think some players do really appreciate it, but he kind of flies under the radar a lot of times. I feel like you should be playing Viper a lot more often than people are.
Yeah. So taking a look at the board, nobody bothering with Scrappy. Big Bear is brave. Big Bear is extremely brave.
Yeah,
Titado is
the only one running Scrappies. Well, no, Leva is kind of dabbling in them, but not quite as much right now. Still kind of playing some Druids as well, but it looks like there's only 2 players who are going to go heavy Scrappies, 2 players who are ever going to complete a 4 Scrappy bonus, and that might be very good for both of them because it is a strong build if it can find its upgrades, and with just 2 people on it, it seems pretty realistic that you can get some of them up to 3-star.
Well, then you have to worry, right, about these the likes of Ceremonials and these Assassins, the Vaults. They're all running these anti-Scrappy compositions. They sustain if they sustain longer, if they do more damage, much faster, then suddenly your Scrappies fall apart. And again, of course, as you mentioned, they get their 3 stars much faster, and that is sort of their Hail Mary, right? Is that they have that access to their 3 stars, and that's what's going to win them the game if they are going to win the game.
Speaking of Ceremonials here, after the initial losing streak, intentional losing streak, off to a really great mid-game with a 7-round win streak, trying to complete this win streak, and near the top of the tables here, we still see it very even for most of the top 4 players are all within 4 life total of each other, and 5th, 6th, and 7th place are all tied at 46 health, so it's kind of a little disparity. There's a top and a bottom half, but within those halves, it is a very close game.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be Ceremonials versus Titado here. Again, the only Scrappy player versus this sort of heavy sustained build, especially with a Jewel. I think Jewel with this heavy sustained build is very, very strong. As you can see, Tusk almost died, but then Happy Hour and the Warlock buff procced, and then suddenly they're not dead. In fact, I don't think any of them have died yet. They actually haven't died yet. So, Yep, this is the power of Warlocks. Finally, the
Tusk
barrows will
finally
come through.
dies.
It's like, yeah, someone finally died. At least the Warlocks are those.
I think we lost Blue Sapphire again. Rip, press F to pay respects for Blue Sapphire's internet. In any case, Ceremonials does get to complete the win streak here with the 4 Warlock build just sustaining up. Let's take a look at the healing numbers on that. 13,000 healing from Treant Protector. Absolutely amazing healing output there. Mostly from Leech Seed, but Mechanism, a item that got buffed in this recent patch. Most items in the new patch are quite a bit stronger. Just in general, most items are... The items they added to the game are a little bit stronger than the old ones. They removed some of the weaker ones. So on average, the item power level's gone up, and so they buffed Mechanism up to 750 HP. But with the reduction of health totals on everybody else, and the reduction of health from like something like Vitality Booster and Vanguard, this makes Mechanism an extremely powerful item in this current meta. It did proc a little bit too early there from the Treant, so that it didn't get quite as much healing as last time, only 11k, or 1100 healing rather. So, not quite as impactful, but it doesn't matter, as Ceremonials is just going to completely run over Zavaz here. And Zavaz is in a lot of trouble, already down to 25 HP, and may just get eliminated. Well, it's not going to get eliminated here, but it's going to be within one-shot range in future rounds after taking a big hit here from Ceremonials. It's going to take 12 damage. And
Yeah, I mean,
Blue Sapphire's
the
back.
mech is. Yeah, I'm back. My internet's on and off. Hopefully, it doesn't end like this in the finals. But regardless, right? I did want to say before I cut off that a lot of the sustain on Jewel is so good. I mean, the Mechanism, as you mentioned, is also an extremely good item, and they didn't nerf how much heal it gave you. So it's still on the ratio of the double HP in a game in an HP pool where everything is now 1.5% of what they originally were. So again, as you mentioned, Mechanism is so good. Ceremonials will be fighting against Cannon. I'm fully expecting Ceremonials to look for a Legion Commander, actually. I think Legion Commander would be amazing on composition. But, you know, we'll see, as he currently is at level 9. So, unfortunately, probably he's past the prime of finding any Legion Commanders at this point in time. So,
I just realized we had in-game sounds muted. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Fix that. All right.
There we go.
Much more exciting battles when we get lots of in-game sound. Sorry, we've
Yep, exactly.
today's been a day of technical difficulties, so you know we're gonna work through that.
It's okay. Nothing happened. Nobody saw.
No one saw that. In any case,
regardless, Ceremonials still top dog.
Still doing very strong here. Everyone else is dropping real low. There's a lot of people within one-shot range. Leva and Zavaz here potentially may get eliminated with a bad round. So let's take a look. Leva is running a 4 scrappy build, pairing with some insects and inventors. Does have dragons, but doesn't have a 2-star Dragon Knight quite yet. Is just running the 2-star Viper, which is good. Don't get me wrong, Viper is great, but Dragon Knight is like the real big carry here, and we've seen these scrappy builds just absolutely fall apart if they do not get a big damage source, and I don't know if Viper is quite enough of a damage source here, especially when they're up against Ceremonials. Oh boy, this is tough.
Placed down to lead that Inventor buff, but it's not going to be enough unless he does something about it. The sustain is still massive. The Mechanism is finally proc. The Omni Knight falls, but not before getting the Purification off Ceremonials. Again, his sustain. It's all about the sustain. The Mortimer's Kisses have already landed and doing quite a bit of damage, but nothing died due to the healing outputted by Jewel. Jewel is just sitting there drinking, celebrating his victory here. Maybe prematurely, as a lot of units are dying, but no, it's just Weaver left, as the Shadow Fiend is going to Requiem one last time, but decides to stop. In fact, he's Requiem canceling, as Leva will fall. Unfortunately, eliminates the first player.
Leva is eliminated here on round 19. Very fast elimination with the increased damage output of rounds and just removal of creep rounds. These games are going quite a bit faster, especially for those who get eliminated very soon. But Zavaz, on the other hand, took another chunk, but not quite enough to knock them out, down to 3 HP. And honestly, based on the damage output we've been seeing, I'm afraid for Quentin here. We've definitely seen people take 19 damage in one hit, so I wouldn't rule any of these out from being eliminated here, especially if they go up against somebody like Ceremonials, who just seems very, very strong right now. Zavaz up against Momo Ring is one we'll be following here.
Going to be quite interesting to see how this goes, because he is running Assassins. With Sand King and Insects, this is quite the most unusual build I've actually seen. Mortimer is gonna finally land, Doom gonna land on the Bounty Hunter. Not the biggest loss in the world. The Viper in the front line actually gonna get attacked by everybody. That's not a good thing because Corrosive Haze is devastating. Look at that swarm just cleaning up everything, but unfortunately, for the side of Blaze, he's not gonna be able to kill that second one off, and that Corrosive Skin actually slowed a lot of attack speed, dealt a lot of damage on top of the Mortimer's Kisses stacking. On top of cooldown as well, that was a lot of AoE damage.
I think we were watching a different...
Oh, I was watching Kidden versus Blaze.
Oh, sorry. Didn't realize. Anyways, so Zavaz gets eliminated there at the hands of Momoring. The damage dealing on Essex quite strong, with the Enthrall just being able to steal an opposing Treant Protector. And it was just too much, unfortunately, for Zawaz to handle there. And now we're down to just to the top 6, and we see Quenin still at 19, but one has picked up a 3-star Nyx Assassin. Now, as far as assassins go, that's probably one of the lower impact ones to get up to 3-star, certainly compared to Ember Spirit or Queen of Pain.
Absolutely.
But still, no slouch here. Going to be hitting pretty darn hard with that. Does have a Diffusal Blade on an Ember Spirit, which is pretty cool, because the Sleight of Fist will burn everybody's mana then.
Well, I mean, we'll see how it really works here. Ember Spirit gonna blink forward. We'll see when that Sleight of Fist finally procs, hopefully before any abilities come off. And in fact, it will be. It actually burns off mana from quite a few units, but it's not looking like it really stopped a lot of things. Unfortunately, it's not looking like it will be enough against Blaze. Blaze, all of his units are still standing here. No one's really been eliminated yet. And yeah, unfortunately, one will take 20 damage. And
he's got 1 life.
He has 1 life. That's all he needs, baby.
Plenty of life total. Well, plenty.
That's more than enough. Yeah, unfortunately for him, he is unable to really secure anything against Blaze. Blaze, of course, running that Brute Heartless buff. That is actually the most surprising build in this competition. And I think that you can credit that to the fact that there's no Scrappy Inventors in this game. Well, not a lot of them.
There's just one. Tadado is playing that, and Leva has already been eliminated. So Brutes typically have a bad matchup against that kind of heavy sustain build, because Brutes also don't deal quite as much damage. We just see Quenin has a 3-star Viper. I just realized that, but we're going to still watch one here and see if they can pull out a win here against Ceremonials, which we've seen Ceremonials be doing extremely well, but the Assassins are probably a good matchup against these Warlocks. We'll see if they can cut down the healing from Ceremonials.
The wounds are taking their toll, however, it's not looking like it will be enough. The mechanism is still popped. He is not wounded, however, so that is still the full heal. Happy. So the barrels of fun, rather, going to be placed down here. And look at this attack speed, but that's not from the barrels, it's from the Slork. Look at that attack speed go, as the Slork has gone full AWOL, and the damage output is just ridiculous as the Slork cleans up the backline.
It was plus 3 point something. He was doing like 4.5 or 5 attacks per second. That is a little absurd. With the 2-star Slark, scales so incredibly well, especially with the Mask of Madness. Finally gets up to 6 assassins. Did not have 6 assassins until just now. Was just running 5, so that is a massive improvement for one's composition here. So maybe this will turn the tide and get him to the top half finish.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kidden and Momoring have stolen his Viper, so he will not be having Viper for this run. Unfortunately, kind of obligated to run Bounty Hunter instead. Has a lone druid in the pocket as well at 2-star, so I'm not sure when he's going to put that down. But regardless, he will be fighting against Momoring, another assassin composition. We will see which assassin composition it will be enough. There is a 3-star next assassin, but it's not as good as just having better tier assassins here. We will see which ones will fall through. The acid spray is landed from both sides. Sleight of Fist get traded. The Viper in the backline doing quite a bit of work, almost 2 shots the Queen of Pain. The Ember Spirit opposing side has finally fallen. It's just the Void now left standing against this Alchemist, but the acid spray doing its work. Actually, the Sand King is still alive. I didn't even notice him. Burrow Strike lands as he pops the Alchemist here. Perhaps the evasion finally falls. One barely loses.
Just barely. The big point in that fight was the Viper in the backline cast the Nether Toxin onto the 2-star Slark, who jumped right on him, and the Slark just could do nothing against that attack speed slow from Corrosive Skin, and then also from just the passive reduction, or the passive removal from Nether Toxin, and that was such an incredibly close fight. But obviously, when you just have 1 health left, you have no room for error, and unfortunately 1 does drop in 6th place here. We've got a relatively close game across the board here with everyone else. Momoring's actually the 1 point ahead here and is up against Quentin here. So Quentin may be on the chopping block if Momoring's able to continue the dominance and win another round.
Only 2 1-star Dragon Knights and a 3-star Viper, however. 3-star Viper is definitely not one to scoff at. The Slark is getting popped here in the backline. He actually blinks forward against the Nyx Assassins, who will still alive. The Scream of Pain actually going to kill him off. Finally, the Viper, it's all up to him now. The Jewel trying to keep him alive, but he's the only one standing. The Bounty Hunter in the backline actually somehow did not die from that initial volley and will keep getting in this game. Survives with 9 HP, deals 8 damage to Momoring. Tetado loses to Momoring, deals 9 damage, and Blaze beats Ceremonials here. And speaking of which,
Blaze took a huge chunk. Blaze dropping down to took 20 damage in that fight. So now Blaze realized, oh crap, I'm really weak, and gets some luck, cashes in the luck, gets a number of upgrades on this turn. Gets the 2-star Doom, Alchemist, and I think there was a Dragon Knight as well to 2-star.
Yeah, I'm surprised he has Butterfly on the Lifestealer, not on the Troll Warlord here. Puts down the Lone Druid as well to just to add the bonus bonus Druid buff. I don't know why also the Vlad is on the Tree Protector. Perhaps that is a blunder. We will see. The Lifestealer is getting 5v1 here. Gets eliminated. The Viper pushing forward. The Chrono Cube gonna land. It's gonna stun everything. Doom gonna calm out on the Void, but he's already done his Chrono Cube. So it's not the biggest loss. However, the Slark died, so that may be a bigger loss, but it's too late. It's just the Tree Protector left, and he gets rooted to the ground just like a real tree. As Blaze takes 16 damage from the Ghost of Momoring as well.
Wow.
Momoring, the Assassin, also takes 23 damage from Ceremonials, as Ceremonials, even though he's a sustained build, says, I have enough Bristleback to kill.
That is really impressive. That is unusual. So obviously Momoring is just demolishing people on the Phantom boards, but is not having too much success on their own board. It does go up against Ceremonials, which typically you think that as a good matchup for the Assassins. Momoring does have gets a Refresh Orb here, but is running the 6 Assassins, which typically you would associate as being strong against the Warlock build, but we just saw them got absolutely demolished by Ceremonial, so I'll have to see exactly how that all played out. Maybe it was just no crits, or maybe it's a compositionally stronger build.
Yeah, Cannon was offered the Butterfly, but after the Refreshers Orb, I'm actually surprised. Perhaps wanting the double Burst Strike over perhaps a Butterfly on like Ember Spirit. I'm actually shocked about that. We will definitely see how well this will go for Momoring. Still, oh wait, we're still watching.
Cannon here as maybe eliminated. I think I can kind of understand that pickup. It's close because there's not a great target for that Butterfly. There's some okay targets, but your main carry here is the Viper. Viper is the one you need to survive and win these fights if you're Quentin. And there you have a Moonshard.
Unfortunately, the word close doesn't really work in that matchup as Ceremonials just destroys him.
Yeah.
Dealing 20 damage, both Bristlebacks just Quill Spray.
Yeah, this is a very impressive showing. Typically I would say if you just said on paper 4 Warlocks or 6 Assassins. I'm picking the 6 Assassins most times, just because the Warlock bonuses are going to be mostly cancelled out there. But turns out, if you just have much higher quality units, the double 2-star Bristlebacks are just better than anything the Assassins are bringing to the table. You don't have any... Even like a 2-star Slark is honestly a weak 4-cost unit. Really, in my mind, he's still kind of a 3-cost unit in terms of like his strength. So seeing that... just having multiple 2-star, the 4-cost units in the Bristlebacks are just so strong. And the target buddy is doing good work as well to distract the Assassins long enough for the heals to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. And although he has a Battle Fury in the Ember Spirit, that's a 1-star Ember Spirit. So that Battle Fury is lackluster at best, unfortunately, for the side of Momoring. And Momoring, he just has to survive, honestly, until he gets that 2-star Ember Spirit at least. Actually going to get that done. Stays alive. The insects saving him quite a bit, and the Bristleback gets brought back to life.
Wow, the Enthrall winning the day from Momoring here. Tatato does get eliminated by Ceremonials, so that's the matchup that we kind of predicted, was that Ceremonials, the 4 Warlocks, would beat up on the Scrappies, just because the Scrappies kind of lack the damage output to punch through all this healing. But very surprising. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I was just going to say, that was so surprising. I thought the Scrappies would at least stay alive for the next round, but unfortunately, not the case. Unfortunately, South American boys will be losing their top 3 is still not bad. We will finally see Memorial versus Ceremonials here. Does not get the 2-star Ember Sprint, but will he be able to deal with these 2-star Bristlebacks? Perhaps the Enthrall actually changing the fight there, but that's sort of admitting that you kind of need the enemy's own unit to beat them. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this will go. Enthrall certainly gonna be a changing factor here. Enthrall has not been popped yet. In fact, no Enthrall has been used at all. Gonna finally land on the, I don't even know what he landed on, but it's not going to matter because he's already dead. Memorial took 21 damage. Ceremonials obliterates the competition with that Warlock composition. And where your Scrappy's at now, boys?
Yeah, the kind of a bold choice. The aggressive version of an Essex from Momoring here is one that, you know, we haven't seen too terribly much of, and I personally think it's a little bit weak. As we saw, like, the Enthrall there basically didn't do anything in that last fight, whereas the Golem, for instance, would have definitely done something, whereas Enthrall was put on a Bristleback, which never actually died, and therefore sometimes this is just like there's a really big fail state here with this version of an Essex, and so it did not quite work out for Momoring there. I mean, still, top 2 is a great finish with the Assassin build, especially when Assassins are this heavily contested, with 3 players on Assassins in this lobby. But lots of props here to Ceremonials. The double Bristleback just coming in for the win, just absolutely mopping up the competition. It honestly didn't feel that close. Ceremonials went on a 6-round win streak to end out this game.
Yeah, like, absolutely. The Ceremonials once again gets a first placer, so you gotta wonder how how well he is going in this tournament. But aside from that, right, every other player as well has been doing quite well, and it's showcasing, like, the lack of Scrappies this game sort of shows that Scrappies aren't the only build. Although I see a lot of players like, oh, I see Scrappy every game, but in reality, you can beat them. It's not impossible. I've done it personally in my own game, so I certainly don't see why Scrappies cannot be beaten. It's certainly not like a devastating only strategy. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like the F4 builds we used to see back in the day. We've seen
Scrappies have a good presence in every game, but they haven't won any of the games that we've watched yet. They've always had somebody in the top 3, so they've always been decent, but it's always been either a Warlock build or a Mage build or a Legion Commander build. So some of these more diverse, I'll say, like a little bit more spread out. It's not all focused on just a single individual synergy, and those have been taken down instead of the Scrappies here. And once again, there's been no Mages in this particular game, so we'll have to see if maybe they do come back in the future games. They have a 100% win rate, essentially, from what we've seen.
Okay, listen, crazy theory. Next, in our last lobby, we're gonna see Mages, Knights, Spirits. I don't know. Bloodbound. I don't even know. Right, because there's so many weird niche builds, and we saw just Assassins right here, and I thought Assassins would be not at all visible. So it's just crazy how this will go about. Like, again, if I see Knights in this game, or like if I see the trifecta of niche builds, I am gonna lose my mind.
Maybe we have seen some standbys that have shown up in every round, and of course some diversity that has been popping in. So I really do think the meta is in a pretty good spot. You don't have any like super dominant build. You've got a good kind of rock paper scissors dynamic between a lot of the top builds, and possibilities of some of the off meta things to come in and do very well as well. So I'm really enjoying seeing how this is all playing out, and I like what we've seen. We got one more round left here. Looks like we should have a pretty quick turnaround on this because we do have just our 8 players remaining. So there's just going to be 8 players all finishing up here for the finals, the grand finals of Underlords Pro Season 4 grand finals here. We'll have Ceremonials, Moma Ring, Spieler TG, Tatato Urso, Quenin, Dot Shame, Vovenbach, and Blazed all in the top 8. So those are names we've definitely seen a lot of today, and it should be no surprise that the Ceremonials, after winning 2 of our last 3 games, 2 of the first 3 games rather, is definitely the front runner in this in terms of the total number of points that they've been able to accumulate already. So will have to be a very bad finish for Ceremonials here in order to not take down the win. So really any kind of good finish should lock that up for them.
Yeah, absolutely. The ceremonials, again, all he has to not to do is not lose, right? Perhaps, I mean, open fort strat has been working, but at the same time, the open fort strat is also pretty dangerous to watch. I mean, you got to be concerned if you lose with the open fort, and then
Mm-hmm.
you keep losing, and you're like, uh-oh, what's
Yeah,
happening here?
he's had an open fort every single time. So there's been 3 games, and he got a third, first with it. So, and every time going into a warlock base build, there's always been warlocks. There's always been some like druids and savages. Sometimes it's had legion commander, sometimes it hasn't, and that may just be a very popular or a very strong build in the current meta where you're able to use those additional rerolls to power yourself into that mid and late game power spike where you get those druid upgrades and you get just the powerful warlocks online in the later stages of the game. And even though you lose early, you hit such a strong power spike in mid and late game that it doesn't really matter if you're already low on life total.
Yeah, we're also undermining another benefit of going the open force strat. You get to see what everybody else is trying to do without investing in a single build, right? You can look at the board and say, right, this is a warlock game, or right, this is a scrappy game, or right, this is a mage game, because all of those are still potentially available to you. I mean, perhaps he just has a natural affinity to warlocks, and maybe he just doesn't care, just plays warlocks regardless. But still, like it is much easier to understand what units are available to you when you see everybody else's build and you still haven't chosen yours because you're not invested into anything, right? Like personally, like if you're invested into something like spirits or assassins, you feel as though you're obligated to continue, or if you're running mages, you feel you're obligated to continue. But with the open fort strategy in the first 5 rounds, in fact maybe in the first 8 rounds, you have time to say, right, this is the build I'm going for, this isn't contested, is pretty solid, I'll do this. And usually they work, or maybe they don't. I mean, we'll definitely see in the final round.
You're right. That is very, I'll say, an underrated strength of the open fort strategy we've seen ceremonials be using in this tournament is because the meta is much more rock, paper, scissors than I think it's ever been in the past, that we definitely can see. If you take a couple turns off, you say that take the first 5 or 6 turns, and you're not really committing to anything. You can see what's out there, and you can say, "Oh, everyone in this lobby is playing rock." Well, then you just lock in paper, and you make your decision later.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not quite that simple, obviously, but
yeah.
That's the idea that
Absolutely.
when the meta is that diverse, you can get some advantages by doing that you normally wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Absolutely. I think what we sort of forgot to mention is that mages are actually quite good against Scrappy. So, again, I feel as though quite a lot of players will avoid Scrappies just for the reason that everyone will be like, right, let's make a build that will kick Scrappy ass and also do some stuff, right? Because that's the idea, right? Everyone is expecting for somebody to play Scrappies, and somebody will lose to those to playing Scrappies, and I won't be surprised if nobody does go Scrappy.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's only one person that does it, because again, everyone will be preparing for that.
Well, we are in here to round 4, all ready to go. So we'll see if that does end up being the case here. And we've got our top 8 players all ready to go. And, well, we already see Dot Shame here, first one respecting, does have a Storm Spirit on turn 1, as well as a pair of Snapfires, which are often associated with a mage damage, because a lot of magic damage coming out of that Mortimer's Kisses. Sorry, a mage build, because of the magic damage from Mortimer Kisses.
Yeah, so it looks like we have 2 open fort strats going. Ceremonials opts not to sports strat. That is the biggest surprise actually in this matchup. Kidid and the PLRTG starting off with their open fort strategy quite effectively here. In the meantime, what I'm looking at here is quite a solid build at the moment, right? Looking through. Ceremonials has 2 knights. I doubt that is knights. I'm not gonna go too crazy because I doubt he's sticking with that. If he is sticking with that, I don't know what to say. I don't think it is. I really don't think it is.
I think it might be. I don't know. I mean, it's turn 1. So it's hard to say anything.
Don't
but
get me home.
Don't get me false hope. But the idea is that what I think Ceremonials the success has been on. We made a lot of deal about the open fort, but I think it's been the adaptability that. It just always seems like Ceremonials has the good build to counteract what opponents are playing. So he sells off everything, and now he's gonna open for it. No, so this is great. This is good. This is good because you got the one bonus gold. So now you got 10 gold. So now you can collect interest on turn 2. It's so perfect.
This is what we talked about, right? Why don't you just win the first round and then open for it?
And then open for it. It's so much better. You get the one gold. Oh my goodness! Why didn't we? Oh, this is ideal. And then look at his shop. Double Enchantress, double Tusk. Like you don't even open for it. You just turn this around right away and like, okay, I got a 2-star Tusk, 2-star Enchantress, and just go to town. Possibly. I mean, if you can get them.
I mean, and then you can sell them off if you want to anyway, because they give you full investment back. So, this is like the biggest brain play in history, ladies and gentlemen.
Galaxy brain play here, right? Yeah. Just win the first round, and then sell everything off. It's so good.
Then sell everything, and then get your investment back via loss, and then you'll get what you need. And this is just surprising, honestly. Gets the Legion Commander as well. Maybe we'll opt into that play. We'll see.
Perhaps.
Still has 11 gold. He can put stuff on the board, ceremonials. So maybe stop the bleeding if he's still going to stick to open fort.
Maybe just seeing that. Oh no one else is going to open fort, so you can still do that. Let's hop over to Spieler TG, who's got a already up to level 4, has a 2-star Bat Rider with an Orb of Venom, which is very powerful at this point in the game, and a 2-star Shadow Shaman. So you got to think that even though Spieler lost one of the rounds, I feel like this is a good candidate to go on a good early win streak with these 2-star units.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe he also open forted in the first round, so I'm not sure how this will go about. I mean, of course, he's gonna get this win, secure Shadow Shaman and Bat Rider together versus a single Bat Rider will clearly beat the other. That will be good for him. And yeah, you gotta wonder what he really wants to do with this. Of course, it's quite good to have sort of already 3 alliances with 4 units. I mean, that's quite a lot. So get to look forward to what he plans to do with this.
Definitely, and it's really 3-star or 2-star units rather, because the Druid bonus provides an extra one. So Shadow Shaman, Bat Rider, and Enchantress all going to be at 2-star already. That's looking really good for Spieler TG here. Going to be on probably an early win streak. We'll see. This goes up against Voven back here, running Artie's Brutes and Bloodbound, but has a bunch of 1-stars, and I'm going to put my money on the 2-star units to beat out the 1-star units here.
Yeah, well, a Bloodbound contract of Voven back and a Legion Commander on the bench, you know what that means? Oh, baby!
Oh, that's my favorite.
Yeah, that's going to be super exciting to see. Again, I honestly... The best time to play Legion Commander builds is when you get that Bloodbound contract, because that means you have a guaranteed extra space on your bench, or on your board rather, to put down another alliance. And once you get 10 alliances, or like 11, if you somehow get that, that's almost double everything on Legion Commander.
Yeah, so, just because she scales so hard with alliances, just having half of an alliance on an item is such a powerful bonus, but it's also just a ridiculously good alliance for her, because then you can only run exactly 2 Bloodbound. One of them can be up front as a sacrifice, and then as soon as that sacrifice dies, Legion Commander is the one to get the buff. Whereas if you have to do it the old-fashioned way, and you have to run both, say, Ogre Magi and Mr. Warlock, if one of them dies, then it might accidentally go to the other one. You know, the Warlock dies, it might go to the Ogre Magi, and then Legion Commander doesn't get the buff until later on into the fight. That's not ideal. So getting the big-time contract is like doubly important for a Legion Commander build.
Kinnan is running a scrappy composition. He's going to get the win on the Voven back here, as we talked about him a little bit. But yeah, Kinnan is the only player playing scrappies. Looks like nobody wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole at this point.
They've learned.
Yeah, they've learned, like, everything counters scrappies. Let's just not play it today. But he's braving it. I mean, again, we mentioned the benefits of being the only one playing scrappies is that you get everything you need. But the question is everything you need enough?
I mean, if you get a 3-star Tinker with a mana item, like a Voidstone or a Scythe of Eyes or something, a 3-star Tinker is going to bump out a ton of damage and is going to be pretty much unkillable with the Scrappy bonus. So I think that is one particular thing that if you get that, you're like, yeah, this can beat pretty much anybody once you get that to 3-star.
Well, I mean, 3-star Tinker is nice, but have you heard of the gospel of one-shotting Legion Commander? I mean, how about?
She can't get to the Tinker before the Tinker kills everybody else. So
come on, that's loser talk.
Maybe, I don't know. Legion Commander has very little target access. She just has to kill whatever's in front of her.
Just get a satanic, so you can stay alive forever. Obviously.
Right, I'm gonna base my whole strategy around getting a tier 5 item.
Exactly.
So I do like that we see out of this matchup, Quentin versus Momering here. We kind of were poo-pooing on the barricades earlier. We didn't think it was a very good item in tier 2 here, but now both of them have picked it up and has formed a nice little wall here to box in the sniper and prevent it from getting hit. You could put the sniper up a little bit closer and nothing's getting through that barricade to get to him.
I feel like there's only one reason they picked up barricades is that the other two options were Blink Dagger and Force Staff. I'm not gonna lie. So
well, okay, but did both of them have those equally bad options? Both Quentin and Momoring? Like,
well, I wouldn't. I just don't. Give me a third barricade, and then I'll love barricades. Okay, I was the first guy who was like, I love barricades, but then I realized how little they did, and I'm very, very sad. But yeah, barricades are not like game losing. They're not gonna lose you the game, but they're certainly not going to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a Stonehall Pike or a data or a Desolator or something over these because I would probably do a lot more for you. No, you're right. They have some uses, especially I like how Quentin was using them to box in the sniper. I think that was a better use of it than what Momering's using it, which is like two kind of random up front spots, which doesn't really seem quite as effective.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Kaner will still lose. Does take minimum damage for that round at least. And aside from that, we will definitely see what the other compositions looking like. Blaze, probably putting down 2 Legion Commander. In fact, 2 Legion Commander compositions down.
Oh man, they're swapping things up.
Down Commander, yeah. Blaze has sold both LCs.
I want to say one thing here about Ceremonials, who had won the first round and then was like intentionally losing, did win last round and is now 2-5, and that may have been an unintentional win. I don't really think Ceremonial's comp was strong enough, and if you're trying for an open fort strategy, you probably want to keep on losing for another couple more rounds to keep that losing streak gold coming. We'll see if that how that ends up playing out for him. That may have been an accidental win, just the worst kind.
He's just riding with it at this point. Having a 2-star Tree Protector and a 2-star Enchantress means that the sustain is way too much, and an early mage strat is not the best mage strat. Unfortunately, Momoring has 2 Razors and a Crystal Maiden to his name in terms of damage from a mage strat, and this is like how not to do mage strat 101, right? You want that sorcerer, you want that morphling instead, and if you can't get those, you get like tanks instead, right? You're not supposed to put mages down immediately.
You're right. Yeah, so they're definitely fairly weak. Like a 1-star Razor is weaker than like a 1-star of like a lot of other things. A lot of like druids and brutes and a lot of the other ones. Like if we just look at the scoreboard, you see Momoring is up to level 6. That's aggressive leveling, but has all 1-star units, whereas almost everybody else has multiple 2-stars or more. And so yeah, this build is just not looking that hot right now, but I can understand the sentiment is you want to get leveled up, you want to get those higher odds of getting those tier 4 units, the Keeper of the Lights, the Morphling, which is particularly important, so you want to get those tier 3 odds up. And I'm okay with where Momoring's at here, even though they're on a losing streak, because they'd won the first couple rounds, is still at a reasonably healthy life total.
It's like an unintentional open fort. It's like he did.
It's a losing. It becomes a losing streak. Yeah, an unintentional losing streak.
Yeah, it's an unintentional losing streak. Unfortunately, 2 Razors will not make a 1-2-star Razor.
No,
you need.
We're not playing knockout mode.
Yeah, we're not playing knockout. You can pick up Kunkka to just offset. Kunkka boat is quite good. He is given the option between Hobgin, Jewel, and otherwise. We'll wait until we get our selections before
it keeps on blinking. Right? You're seeing this too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So the visual bug is because every time someone picks up Underlord, it resets to show another board's choice, and that gets etc. But judging at the board, looks like nobody likes Hobgin. I mean, there's 2 Hobgin players. Actually, looking at the board, it's actually quite even. Taking a look, there's 4 Jewels, 3 Hobgins, and
you
1
said you predicted you predicted 4 Jewels. You predicted that exact same breakdown, I think. That exact
I'm pretty
breakdown
sure
last
I called
fight.
that. I called it, ladies and gentlemen. I called it. I did it. I am a real caster. Regardless, it looks like Momori will be against Legion Commander here. No duel yet because he got silenced. Gets finally a duel off, but it's not going to be a win. It doesn't seem
No,
like
he
it
will. Yeah.
Gets it.
That was good on the last auto attack of that fight.
Yeah.
10 damage from duel from the win.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Momori did get a coddle, but it's not going to be the end all. Again, a bit too early to really be winning super hard with mages. But then again, you're losing quite hard, Momori. So...
Yeah, Momori doesn't have a single 2-star unit. But does pick up a Maelstrom here. More than likely, the magic damage item is quite strong in a mage build, especially on somebody like Razor who has a relatively quick attack speed. And
I would say put it on the Morphling.
What are the Morphling? Well, yeah, Morphling does spend some time wave forming and sometimes making himself into a bit of a tighter spot if he jumps into their backline real quick.
Okay.
So I'm okay with either one. It depends.
Right.
Does finally find a 2-star unit on round 11, just about time. Finds a 2-star Axe and a 2-star Razor, so maybe looking to turn things around here in the next couple turns. But
yeah.
Can't afford to lose too much more life total.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably gonna look to hopefully level up to level 7 just to get that Sword Spirit on and get the mage damage going. And speaking of which, he's gonna try and shove here. His Jewel, unfortunately, not gonna be the biggest thing in the world. Waveform, as we mentioned, doesn't do a lot of damage, but the Counter Blast was
Razor.
significant.
Yeah, Razor's still going pretty strong.
Yeah,
but
unfortunately, it's not gonna be enough.
The healing and Essex just top them up right at the end there. So Tatato on a good 5-round win streak, and Momering drops sub 50% HP right now. But if I'm being honest, I like where Momering's at in terms of the texture of the game. And obviously, not the life total is not ideal, but looking around, we don't see anybody who's running like a 6 assassin build. I guess maybe Quenin might be trending that direction. 6 assassins like have the potential to burst down mages before they can cast. But other than that, we see some brutes who are notoriously bad against mages. We see scrappies. We see some savage insects, which are just generally pretty good matchups for mages in the late game. So if Momering can get there, I kind of feel pretty good about their situation.
Yeah, and speaking of late game, there are 2 scrappy compositions, but neither of them are inventors, so that's surprising to me. I mean, Ceremonials is trying to go scrappies, considering... Or not Ceremonials, sorry. Blaze is trying to go scrappies, considering nobody is going for it. But it looks like Kieran just has scrappies out of just residual, because he has a sniper and a weaver on the board rather. It is, I mean, with no scrappies on the board, this is probably the reverse of what you would ever see in a ranked game, right? You would see at least 2 or 3 scrappies, but in a moment like this, understanding that scrappies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we have 2. We got Blazed with 4 scrappies that run like insects and dragons, so doesn't quite have the inventors online. And then Quenin, I thought Quenin would be trending more towards assassins, but I guess finds an opportunity to put in 4 scrappies, which may be pretty strong. Momering picks up a 2-star Coddle. That's a huge power spike. And now the barriers or the barricades are going to be very strong, kind of being able to box in and protect their flank on the corner here. I really start to like barricades in this kind of formation now that you kind of get this build all together.
We will see how it does against Tentado Ursa, who is playing Warlocks with a Bristleback here, but the Bristleback is only 1 star, so not too much to write home about. The Mage is going to do some burst damage. The Morphling and the Sword Spirit aren't doing the most damage, but the Coddle Blast is trying to clean up the competition, and indeed it does. Kills off 3 units at once. The Jewel is just sitting down on his chair as the rest of his team cleans up the mess.
Very strong win there from Momering. The Mage build just shredding through them now that they've hit their power spikes and gotten up to 2 stars on most of the important units. Otherwise, Spieler at the top of the tables, we haven't talked about Spieler TG, but Spieler TG is still at 97 life. That is very unusual to see somebody this healthy this late in the game, and doesn't have too many 2 stars. I mean, has the Bat Riders and an Enchantress, but still running a lot of 1 stars in this build. So I'm honestly pretty impressed to see this.
It's because of Hobgin, I'm telling you, I'm kidding. It
is the support Hobgin, which was my vote for the strongest of the Underlord options right now. And I think it's particularly good in this build because you have a relatively tanky build. You've got brutes and you've got warlocks and druids, which are pretty good at surviving later into the fights, like surviving for a long time. And so the attack speed is really beneficial at that point. But looks like they're probably going to take a loss here against Ceremonials with a 2-star Dragon Knight and the Nessex Golem just demolishing their backline in their stacked up formation.
However, taking Napalm is already adding up with all of these units. The Doom finally expires on the Shadow Fiend, gets that Requiem off, but maybe that heal won't be enough. The Batrider falls, but 2-star Dragon Knight and 2-star Shadow Fiend, a bit too much for Spieler there. Ceremonials finding that 2-star Dragon Knight certainly gonna give him some wins, and he kind of can't afford to be last, Ceremonials, as that would really, really put him in a spot of danger.
Absolutely, yeah. That Ceremonials has proven time and time again that he's willing to take like an early loss or two and able to pull it back later into the game and identify a strong composition and then ride a mid to late game win streak. And that's when it really matters as opposed to the opening 10 or 15 rounds.
Yeah, Momoring is against Ceremonials here, and Momoring, as we mentioned, is running that Mage's Requiem, gonna finally land, but it actually, the pairing of the Shadow Fiend instantly dies to that Caudal Blast, and that's one of the ways to deal with the Warlocks is, how can you heal if you're dead? Unfortunately, Mages will lose this one, as the Golem, unfortunately distracted the Caudal, couldn't attack the right way. And
that in Essex Golem is so impactful. In so many of these fights, we've seen it just drop into the back line of a stacked formation and just totally disrupting, because it stuns in a 2-square radius around it, so it's quite a big area of effect. It's not just it is essentially Ravage from Tidehunter, and that's quite impactful here. We do see them pick up a Silver Edge. They're going to go on that 2-star Dragon Knight. So this 2-star Dragon Knight of Ceremonials is just such a powerful force right now, beating up on all these. Yeah, it's getting it so early, and the fact that so many of these opposing compositions are generally heavily stacked up formations, that he can just do his splash damage and his Breath of Fire and just shred through them completely.
Yeah, and I love the fact that all of the builds are semi-unique at least, right? We have a couple of Warlock builds, a lot of overlap, but regardless, they're all trying to look for something else, and I think that's because their Underlords are also sort of changing how they're supposed to play this. Legion Commander on the left-hand side here, Ceremonials will be against Shame. The bear is doomed. That's literally the worst target to doom in the fight, and unfortunately, it looks like Shame will not be able to secure anything. Gets a dual win. That is quite good.
Yeah, I'll take a dual win.
Pushing forward, the Golem is on the back line. The Legion Commander is not going to do this by his lonesome, and the bear has been doomed this entire time, by the way, and he doesn't care. He's fine. Yeah,
that was actually a case where the brute bonus for .shame was really bad for them, because the Legion Commander was constantly retargeting instead of finishing off low health targets, because they wanted to like spread around the brute debuff, and that was just not very helpful here. We do see .shame running 4 brutes, and that's something we haven't seen too terribly much of today. Often it's just like 2 brutes, if anything. Just as I say that, they swap brutes, so still having 4. But I've not been impressed by 4 brute builds. I just haven't thought they were very good, and never mind, they do swap it out for a 2-star Dragon Knight.
Yeah, again, trying to mix and match as best as he can, just to make the commander as strong as possible. In fact, that's a 3-star Legion Commander. We'll see if that duel will come out here, but unfortunately, Insect's making her job a lot harder, and she gets doomed! There will be no duel. You will not get that duel damage, sir! As even if he wins this fight, this will be quite sad. I'm sure Tin Man is very sad about this. No duel,
yes,
but
so
it's looking
sad.
like the win looks like will be going in his favor. The splash damage looking quite effective. The stun gonna vie for it. Legion Commander's still alive all this time. He gets a duel up at the end.
Not even.
Oh my god!
Doesn't even matter. Wow. So Doom's duration was somewhat recently nerfed. It now it has a lower duration. It used to be 20 seconds. I think it's down to 10 seconds. Last 20 seconds. Why do you think it was down? I don't know. Maybe I thought it was down in duration recently, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But in these long fights, with the sustain, with the healing, with the tankiness from brutes, it's not unreasonable to outlast a Doom on a high star unit. And then, dueling later into the fight, you're like guaranteed to get the win because everybody's at low HP. So, you love to see it. You love to see it out of a 3-star Legion Commander. I loved it.
Yeah. Speaking of low HP, mostly we're watching Tentado and Shame. Here we see how this will go about. The push is gonna come through. Requiem gonna land. Duel gonna come through. Gonna get that duel win again. It's not a 3-star duel, but it doesn't really matter. Duel win is a duel win already at 70 damage. Breathe of Fire gonna come through. The Golem stun again, as we mentioned, is so good. This Legion Commander is getting bombarded from the backside and finally tries to deal with it, but unfortunately Shane will take 13 damage there. And speaking of low HP, Bowen back at 13 HP, losing to Momoring. If you look at Mowenback's build, it's just like a worse version of what Spieler and Shame has right now.
It really is. We see several people trying to go for this Legion Commander comp, right? If we look at all the Legion Commander's purchases, there's 3 people on it. Spieler, Shame, and Wovenback. And Wovenback is the only one who's still running a 1-star Legion Commander, and that is far from ideal. Especially without the 2-star Druids, like a 2-star just has a 1-star Lone Druid, so it's not even guaranteed that you get the 2-star Legion Commander out of the deal there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact of the matter is that the Shadow Blade doesn't make you invisible in this game, buddy. So that Shadow Blade is really only for trying to break off some abilities. Extra health is also very nice attack speed as well. Duel might come out here eventually, gets that duel off, gets that free win. That's pretty much a win in my books. Unfortunately, Wovenback can't really afford to lose.
No, they're going to get eliminated here.
Yeah, he has to kind of kill another unit here unless he wants to get eliminated. The bear is already 2 damage, so he has to get another kill. The golem doesn't count as damage. It's not the target. Unfortunately, Wovenback will be eliminated at 16 HP. In the meantime, Momoring takes 17 damage against Tetado Urso.
Wow.
Once again, that's all-around variety build from Tetado. Actually sells the Legion Commander, so now his build just looks weird.
Yeah, that's odd to self Legion. So I guess the idea is that for Tetado here, we're just going to be looking to go for more 4 Warlocks, 4 Savages, which we've seen be very successful in the past, and Legion Commander just kind of bogs that down if you want to go for 4 copies of those things. But Momoring, now facing elimination, does have double Keeper of the Light 2-star.
Yeah.
We'll see if that'll be enough here.
He will be fighting Ceremonials. It's the Assassin composition? No, it is the Warlock Dragon composition. We will see which one will prevail here. Again, the Mage is really good against the Warlocks, especially if they get their burst off first. But if the Viper breaks them, it will be devastating. One of the Condos actually facing the wrong way. Gonna get bursted. Nick Assassin blinks into it and will die as well. The Silence gonna come through. None of them die over the Frostbite, but the Golem, that's the big problem. Momoring doesn't have enough damage to Blast. This is the Hail Mary. Use your force, Harry, and he will die finally. He will survive.
Use the force, Harry?
The only one alive. Nobody heard that. It's okay.
So, that Viper jump in onto the back line and cause the distraction of the Coddle was really the whole fight there. If both Coddles had cast forward towards the Inesix, then the Inesix dies before the Golem comes out, and that's an easy win for Momoring there. So really, that was the whole fight. Was that Viper jumping in the back that cost them the fight there? Doesn't cost them the match. They're still in it, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to highlight right before we go back to Momoring is that I love watching the alliances for a Legion Commander Cup because it's literally the Power Rangers, right? We press tab. Yeah. Look at Spieler.
Spieler's got 10 things. Already has a 2-star Sven too, so has 8 units in and has 10 alliances completed. And has a 2-star Sven. I love 2-star Sven. I think 2-star Sven is a really big carry. Still,
for now we'll jump back.
Yeah, to Momoring, see if Momoring does drop out against Quentin here, running the assassin build.
Yeah, we will absolutely see. We'll jump back to it in a bit. We'll definitely see if he still stays alive here. Burrow Strike going to land on all of the units. The Condo Blast is going to be the Hail Mary. The first Condo Blast comes through, but he doesn't actually get stunned. The second one goes through and it kills off everything as Nick's assassin also disappears from the face of the earth. Actually, he blinked back to pick off the Crystal Maiden. But Momoring stays alive there against Kidden, deals 14 damage, but that was quite a lot of DPS.
Yeah, Momoring does stay alive here, dropping over to Spieler TG to see the end of this fight, and Spieler just demolishes Blazed for 20 damage. Legion Commander dealing top DPS, but a 3-star Treant Protector thanks to the Druid buff, also doing pretty strong, and Sven no slouch as well now that he's up to 2-star.
Yep. Yes, I feel like because of Sven's new position in the game, like just in general, just the fact that, you know, he doesn't nerf Knights anymore, it's much easier to...
He's just a good unit now, like...
Yeah, he's just a good unit now.
deals pretty good damage at 2-star on his own, provides 3 alliances for Legion Commander comps, one of which is like always going to be a completion of the human, because Legion Commander is a human, and then Scaled and Knights are reasonable alliances to complete as well. So now
Rainbow! Oh,
Spieler
it's like
versus
the Power Rangers versus Voltron.
yeah, versus all these Warlocks. Does have a Disruptor on the other side here. Ceremonials has the Disruptor, which is a really good bonus to the Warlock composition. We'll see if it'll be enough. Probably not. This Treant Protector is still full HP, and that is going to be really hard to deal with later into this fight. Moment unfortunately, does get eliminated by Spieler's Ghost here. So we're kind of watching Spieler just run over this game. Ceremonial has been eliminated in 6th.
God. Oh, and Credit also gets eliminated by Titano Big Bear. So 16 HP there, and we get our top 4 instantly as Shame takes 6 damage as half of the... they get
3 of the 7 remaining players just eliminated just like that. And... you gotta be kind of nervous for Ceremonials here. Did have a pretty good lead, and so Ceremonials, the next closest player was Momo Ring and Spieler TG in terms of points. So for the overall standings, like if Spieler TG wins this game, which honestly it's looking like it's a very strong possibility. I mean, Tatato's good as well, but Spieler and Tatato are both doing very strong. It's possible if Spieler wins, might be able to overtake Ceremonials. I have to run the numbers, but it'll be close.
Spieler versus Shame will be engaging here. Again, a rainbow combat match will ensue. It's up to who has the better units, especially in a mirror match like this. The Legion Commander gonna get a dual win for the side of Shame. He's gonna try and shove more, but the Legion Commander is fighting the Sven. The Sven is not sustainable on his lonesome. The Lone Druid will also fall. The Bear will root the enemy. Hobgin will try and push forward. The Doom comes out of the Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend will also go down. But Spieler, unable to secure a win against Shame. And again, mirror matches are all about who strikes first, and it looks like it wasn't quite as good for the side of Spieler that time. And although, they're both rainbow strats, so it was quite the comp.
Yeah, definitely. Spieler and Shame both running the Legion Commander compositions, and Shame got the better end of that one. And Tatato also falling to Blaze. Blaze is our sole remaining scrappy player, I guess our really only scrappy player in this game that has hard committed to a 6 scrappy build. And we've kind of thought they fall out of favor, but if you're the only one in it, it can still be pretty strong. Blaze now going up against Shame here, who has had a pretty good record against it. It shows it's 3-1, but Shame has gotten a lot of upgrades since then, so we'll have to see if that continues or if Blaze can take the win here.
Requiem flies through, Gyrocopter call down, will ensue, Sniper Assassinate will also land, the Duel will get another win for the side of Shame. Shame will always infinitely scaled, and Shame has enough HP to even lose this one. However, he might not even lose this. In fact, Blaze might be eliminated here. Actually, no, it will not be enough, even if he does get eliminated, even if he does lose this one. However, it's not looking like the case. It looks like Shame will be eliminated here. Jewel trying to keep himself alive, 1v2ing his best here. He's breaking glass bottles into the gyrocopter, gets the kill before getting point-blank bullet shot in the face.
Not quite enough damage output from that standalone Jull there. So Blaze does manage to hold on for another round. This game was looking like Spieler and Tatato were going to run away with it, but now it is exceedingly close. Everybody seems to be the lower place players seem to be winning against the higher ones, and it's going to be a photo finish here once again. I could see any one of these 4 players getting eliminated in 4th, or any one of these 4 winning the game, which is definitely not the case. Yeah.
And then half the team are Legion Commander build, so it's certainly a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. It will be Spieler versus Blaze. Again, we will see if this composition will be able to power through. There is a scaled buff to reduce the damage output from the explosions that will occur. Gyrocopter cooldown is also reduced. The Duel will land on the Viper, gets immediately killed. So is the Weaver. The Sven gets assassinated, but is still alive, gets dead-eyed, however, so we will go down next. The units, however, dwindling for the side of Spieler. Blaze is getting this win against Spieler, in fact. The Sniper and the Gyrocopter picking everybody off one by one. It's just the Hobgin left will be assassinated, and that will be 10 damage going the way of Spieler. Shame takes 19 damage against Tatato, as Tatato's composition is just so damn strong with the 2 Bristleback 2 stars.
Wow, I know we've seen 2 Bristlebacks do very good work earlier in the day and in a previous match, and Yeah, double Bristleback 2-star. Just both of them kind of count their own quill sprays, or the other one's quill sprays. So they really stack up to that maximum of 5 stacks so quickly, and then both of them deal insane amounts of damage. So it's no surprise to see this build really start to take off. You really do want both of them to 2-star, but once you get it, oh man, does it deal so much damage.
You know what's even worse?
Good.
One of the Bristlebacks have Bulwark on them. Stonehall Cloak, rather.
Yeah,
so
27 kills on it. 27 times 50.
1,000 HP. Yeah,
it's impressive.
That is a 4.6 thousand HP Bristleback. We'll be against Blaze here. We'll see how this goes. 2 quill sprays. We'll see if that will deal enough damage. Requiem will land, and the Scrappies are still healthy. BKB in the backline from the Sand King, and it's looking like a close battle. Actually, it is the battle of small cuts and small edges and advantages. When will we see any explosions? The Golem finally dropped. The Bristleback are both dead. So it's up to the Scrappies versus the Lone Druid and the Venomancer in the back. But it looks like Titano, it might secure this win against Blaze here. And looks like it will do so. Blaze will take 9 damage, but stay in this fight. Shame, unfortunately, loses to Spieler. Spieler taking his revenge against Shame, who beat him previously.
So one of our Legion Commander comps is out. One still remains with Spieler, and other than that, we've got the double Bristleback comp, and we've got a Scrappy build still holding on here. The Scrappies just did not seem like they were quite strong enough against these double Bristlebacks. Both of them just survived a little bit too long. I really think if, say, the Bristlebacks had died before, and cast 1 fewer times, honestly, that might have been a win for Blazed and the Scrappies here. But we'll watch Blazed and see if he can hold on with just 3 life left up against Tatato here.
Tatato is actually against the Ghost of Blaze, so this will not be the most significant thing in the world. So at the moment, we'll jump to Blaze versus Spieler here. Spieler gets a dual win and will push forward against Blaze. Blaze actually falling apart here quite a bit. His units are already collapsing inwards. The Legion Commander is still alive. The Doom comes out of the Sniper. Dagon gonna follow through, kill off the Clockwork as well. The Dagon wielder is still alive for the side of Blaze. Side of Spieler finally falls, and unfortunately Blaze will be eliminated. Takes 12 damage against Spieler, and in the meantime, Titano actually loses to Blaze, so it will be quite interesting to see Titano versus Spieler, who will be superior in this final round.
Yeah, going to be very close. The big thing here, Legion Commander with a Moon Shard, and she obviously scales so well with attack damage because of the champion passive ramps her up, and so then Moon Shard is one of the best items on her because she already has massive attack damage. She just wants that attack speed to get that out as quickly as possible, and so Moon Shard's one of the best items on her. And we see that picked up for Spieler, and I gotta feel pretty good about that, but we'll have to see how Tatato can counteract this.
Spieler versus Titano. This might be the final round, ladies and gentlemen, if this is a run over, but it certainly will not be the case. The both Bristlebacks, actually one of them get instantly popped. There's only one Bristleback left, and it's barely any quill spray stacked. The shove forward, the duel, the 3-star Legion Commander is just powering through all of these units. The Legion Commander, LGC, also powers through. There is no chance. Titano stood nothing. It was a warpath for Spieler as he just obliterates Titano for 28 damage. Congratulations, Spieler, with a 3-star Legion Commander getting that secure win.
I feel so justified in I have been saying for so long how good Legion Commander is, and I know she got buffed down to 2 cost this patch. But you know what? The point still stands that I've been loving and playing Legion Commanders for a while, and just seeing its success just brings the biggest smile to my face right now. Congratulations to Spieler TG for winning this final round. I don't know how the points are going to break down. Zexorus is going to be running the numbers here real quick,
right.
And we'll find out if Spieler is able to overtake Ceremonials here, and it looks like it is the case. In fact, the the Proto Season World Champion of Dota Underlords Pro League is Spieler TG with this insane win in the final round. Spieler TG has 48 points in this final. Ceremonial with 45 and Tatato with 42, rounding out the top 3. So Ceremonial's had a massive lead coming into this, but one bad finish, and you slip up just a little bit, and Spieler TG is able to come in with this amazingly powerful Legion Commander comp, and I couldn't possibly be happier.
Yeah, I mean, the champion build is the world champion. I mean, how more fitting can that be? I mean, boys and girls. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Also,
Hmm.
the best thing about that was if you press tab and take a look at the boards, it was 3 unique builds
Yeah.
and 3 unique Underlords. Jewel and Nisix and Hobgin were represented,
All
and
in the
my
top.
boy was the winner!
Yeah, Hobgin. You were right. There's 2 Hobgin players here. We had first place and 8th place both playing Hobgin, and it was the support Hobgin, the Let's Go Crazy Hobgin, that did take it down. And that's the one that I've always felt was more powerful, and Spieler obviously showing the true strength there. Legion Commander doing a great job, but you know, the Hobgin and everybody else also contributed to that. It wasn't just the Legion Commander show. Everybody else on that team was also carrying pretty hard, and Spieler also had a massive win streak for most of the game on the back of other builds. Was not always running that Legion Commander, so very, very impressive to see Spieler TG taking down that win. I've been really impressed by a lot of the variety that we've seen today. We've seen so many different builds, a lot of kind of rock, paper, scissors, despite Scrappy arguably being the most popular build, I think, in just terms of raw number of players. It never won a game that we watched. So,
yeah, exactly. That sort of like highlights a little bit of what Underlords feels like, right? It's people are saying, "Oh, Scrappies are so good. Scrappies will win you the game. Just play Scrappies." But then when it comes down to it, that's definitely not the case. If you are good enough, you certainly that will not matter. Scrappies have their weaknesses, and it's all about exploiting those weaknesses. In fact, the longer we went through the tournament, the less we saw Scrappies. And again, that's because players just suddenly said, right, we know how to deal with Scrappies, just play this, 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 and that. And then suddenly they're out of the picture because everybody's too afraid to play them. And yes, we saw Tatato play it in the we saw Blaze play it in the top 3. He was the only Scrappy player in the game, and he was still struggling throughout that entire matchup anyway. So it wasn't clean cut at all.
Absolutely. So what a wonderful tournament. I have been a huge fan of this update that introduced Jull, the hero rotation, the new items, just all kinds of big changes that come out. I think they've dramatically improved the game. I've been really enjoying it. Obviously, the very diverse meta here. What do you agree with that? You think that's been some good changes?
I love this change. I mean, personally, right? As a Hobgin biased fanboy, I want him to be OP. But regardless, right? Like, I do absolutely agree. There's a lot of new things, a lot of fun things, in fact. And I will have to collect some more data, especially with the new update, new strategies and such. And the moral of the story, boys, is that Scrappies aren't the only strategy in the game. There are mages, there are assassins, there are Legion Commanders.
So much Legion Commanders. I love it. So, in any case, thank you all so much for coming out and hanging out and watching some awesome Underlords here with the Underlords Pro Season 4 Grand Finals. Once again, a big congratulations to Spieler TG, Ceremonials, and Tatato, or so our top 3 players in this Grand Finals. Make sure you stay tuned to Underlords Pro on social media, here on Twitch, on Twitter, everywhere, Discord, to stay up to date for upcoming tournaments so you can continue to play some awesome Underlords. And also, thank you so much for the support. Make sure you do like and subscribe to the stream, follow and subscribe to the stream. If you do enjoy this content, it really does help us out a whole lot. And we're also actually looking for sponsors to continue bringing you awesome, high-quality Dota Underlords tournaments every week. So thank you all so much for watching once again, and we're going to be spreading the love here. We're going to be raiding another channel here in just a moment, another Underlords streamer, so make sure you go and give them a warm welcome. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you next time.